Recording in progress.
Okay, one more thing, just hit the.
The button.
Today is October 14th. The time is 9:33. This is the Town of Crestone Board of Trustees meeting. It's being held in both person and via Zoom. To ensure timely completion of the town's business, the following procedures will be followed. All participants must keep their microphones muted and videos turned off except during citizens' comments or when called on to speak by the board. Per 7.3 of our procedures and rules of order, we allow 15 minutes total for citizens' comments. Each speaker has up to 3 minutes to speak. Please state your name and address before speaking. If your comments exceed 3 minutes, or if the allotted time expires, please send your comments to Town Hall as correspondence for the board's response. If multiple citizens share the same comments, please be brief. Unspoken comments can be submitted to Town Hall for inclusion as correspondence at the next regular meeting. First we'll have a roll call.
Mayor Byers,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tempore King,
Here.
Trustee Lakai. Here. Trustee Paulsny.
Here.
Trustee Oglesby. Here. And Trustee Martinez is absent on notice, also in attendance, Town Clerk Blackwell.
Thank you, Ariel. I'm gonna read our updated vision statement. And we're gonna be transitioning to this vision statement from now on. Historic Crestone, Colorado exemplifies small mountain town beauty within a community committed to multi-generational well-being. The town continues to celebrate its pioneering spirit and unique diversity through contemporary self-reliance. Crestone's goals are to enhance economic viability, environmental preservation, sustainable living practices, and social responsibility. Next, we have approval of agenda. Are there any updates, comments, concerns, deletions?
Can we add one item?
Yes.
I have a request from the Crestone Fire Department for a special event on Halloween to be considered.
Okay, sweet. New business F.
Is Suzanne's thing on our agenda?
I think she's just gonna speak at citizens' comments. I wanna add something on old business K, update on our my discussion with the a new accountant that we found.
That was Kay.
K on old business.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
if I may.
yes.
Today is Indigenous Peoples' Day, and the town had changed a number of years ago from celebrating or calling it Columbus Day to be Indigenous Peoples' Day. So I would just like to take a moment to acknowledge that where the town of Crestone is was once occupied by the first peoples that came here. And especially this time of year for things like the pinyon harvest and that. So I just want to acknowledge the people who have lived here before us.
Right, thank you.
Thanks, Kizan.
So do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as amended.
Second?
A second.
Amen. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have approval of minutes from regular meeting September 9th, 2024.
I had just one
Okay.
item. Under, item 10 on the mayor's report,
Mhm.
the 1, 2, 3, the fourth paragraph. Up again. It says the mayor concluded by inviting comments and questions from the floor, leading to a discussion initiated by trustee Latai regarding the tree board's collaboration with the BRIC 2022 grant administrators. I would put a period right there and remove to develop a plan that grants authority to the tree board. We're not really granting authority to the tree board, we're collaborating with the grant to make it possible, so just end it right there.
Thank you for such thorough minutes, Ariel. They're very good and they just, very detailed and helpful. Any other comments, concerns,
Yeah.
solutions? Yeah.
13A,
Mhm.
what's that about declaring bankruptcy? Am I reading this right?
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
Under
Resolution of trustee.
13A,
Trust on accepting resignation. Trustee. Declaring.
does that make any sense, Ariel?
Not to me at all, I wondered.
I think it was something from that, 06-24 and 07-24. Okay. Maybe. Will you check that?
We're under the ninth, so.
Yeah, it's, number 13A.
I'm not sure, I would have to double check that.
Well, I definitely made a motion to accept the resignation,
Yeah, I might have just made a typo on it.
so I guess I would get rid of declaring bankruptcy as amended with title change.
Yeah,
That's probably a good idea.
and I really think you should state the name of the person, of the trustee who resigned,
Correct.
just for the record.
Maybe, when you adjust that and figure it out, we'll go through it before we sign it. All right, I would entertain a motion to approve this, these minutes, the 9th.
Make a motion that we approve the minutes of previous meeting.
There's a second?
I second.
Did you say of the previous meeting?
That's on-
Previous regular meeting.
Yeah, let's just go for the September 9th, was it? As amended?
Any more, yeah, as amended, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Dana, or just the other?
Yeah, fine.
Okay. All right, so we got that one. Now we got a special meeting from September 23rd, 2024. When I was absent for, and Mayor Pro Tem Kinney led it.
I move that we approve the minutes from Monday, September 23rd, 2024, as presented.
There's a second?
Second.
And any other discussions? All in favor?
All right,
I'm gonna recuse myself since I wasn't there. And we have a quorum. Next on the agenda is citizens' comments.
I wanted to say something. If
In a second, we're gonna get the in-person people first.
Is Mayor Sanford?
Yes.
Okay.
Use the microphone. for the-
So I just
Wait,
want to,
name and address for the record.
sure, I'm Leroy West and I live in the Baca, not in the town of Crestone. So I just want to be first very clear that I have no standing here.
Mhm.
And I'm not fully informed, but I wanted to speak up for Wisdom Village for a moment. And, you know, again, my understanding is limited, only from what I've read and talked to a few people, and I've hesitated to talk directly to anyone on the board because I didn't want to be inappropriate. I know how much everybody cares. I know how long everyone's worked on this and how much everyone really wants it to happen. And I just want to encourage everyone to compromise and move forward. Winter's coming. Construction delays cost a lot of money. And I did want to make one practical, you know, acknowledging that everybody, as you look back on it, there's like, seems to be some misunderstanding and some lack of attention on both sides, is what it seems to me. If maybe I misunderstand, I apologize for that. And it also seems to me that, I'm very clear that everybody cares and wants to move forward. In my experience, and I do have a lot of construction, I went up there and looked, Lindsay suggested I go take a look, and when I went and took a look, I was thinking, well, what could be done, because
Can you mute your microphone, please, Daniel? Or,
you need the right of way, and the cement's in the ground, so you're kind of stuck. So the practical constructive comment I had, and forgive me, this has probably already been discussed, is, well, the two people who care the most are the two neighbors across the way. I talked to one of them, I haven't talked to the other. Maybe rather than ripping concrete out of the ground or wasting time in court, if there could be some combination of buying another 10 feet from the two people across the street and building a fence for them, and maybe putting that on the construction budget, making it their responsibility, but basically widening the space so that you did have room and you don't have to rip concrete out of the wall. You know, giving $10,000 each to like chill. And a 6-foot fence would be a lot cheaper than the construction delays. So probably the idea's already been brought up. I don't know because I haven't been here, but I just wanted to add that to the mix.
great. Thank
So,
you,
that's
thank
all
you,
I have.
Leroy, that's helpful.
Thank you.
It's gonna come up, later on, and we're gonna go and speak to our attorney about it, and then we're gonna, decide, and then our decision will be public, and so you'll know.
I understand. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Warren Stevens?
Warren Stephen. So since 2021, the board has known that you've been dealing with financial problems that are still unresolved. I would hope that you would set a date this year to get the financial situation under control before we go to the 2025 budget. There are quick 4 items to be looking at. One is, there is $5,064 paid against the town hall grant, and wonder if any of that money was ever reimbursed by the grant to the town in 2022. The 2023, the water and sewer had 3 CDs, 9401, 9501, and 1636. It totaled $79,297. Those CDs currently only total a little over $60,000. I'm interested in what happened to the $19,000 difference. In both the amended budget and the proposed 2025 budget, which is not finalized, there was money set aside for overage of the sales tax over $430,000. That's no longer in either of those budgets as far as I can see. And for the 2025 budget looks to be between 200 and over 300,000 over income as things stand today. I would hope you would address these and lots of other financial issues. Thanks.
Thank you, Warren. No? Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Suzanne Rouget, and my address is 64001 County Road DD Moffett. And I'm here today to represent the demonstration crew at the Energy Fair and ask that we be able to extend the permit on that building space. One of the things that we have agreed to is that we would clean everything up by November the 1st so that it no longer looks like a construction site, and have only the materials that we need on hand for projects, and that we would let Ben and Michelle know whenever we do have a project, because we do have things that need to be completed. Every time I've worked there, which I was there on Saturday, 7 different people stopped and talked to me for at least a half hour. 2 of them were from Santa Fe. They were very interested in hempcrete, asked a lot of questions, and had a chance to watch me and feel it and get involved. And they were saying how happy they were about the placement of it, and that it's kind of an announcement to Crestone and all the things that we do for sustainable building. And then when I was on the backside working on the bottle walls, 2 gentlemen came up. One of them just bought 900 acres in Mosca, and he's creating a wetlands project and wants to put in a housing development, all hempcrete. He's from Miami, so he and I are talking about trying to get crews together to help him. I really feel like the demonstration site has been such an asset to, having something that's more permanent, but it is a slow process. Like I do the hempcrete, when you have 2 hours to teach people, that's what you're doing, is teaching. And then both years, I've come back on my own 4 or 5 more times to finish the project as soon as possible. And I do think encouraging that is really important. And also using the continuing education aspect of the Energy Fair to work on projects throughout the year so that it's not just all tried to cram into one weekend. This year, we were able to procure some really great speakers. And I know Tim White was involved in the plastering of our building, and everybody was saying it's going to blow up. I think that it is going to get larger, and I think a lot of people are very interested in sustainable building, especially for safety. When you talk about your housing costs, hempcrete is about $130 square foot, but if you look at the health costs, there's nothing in that building that's going to harm you. So I think it balances out. You don't have to buy drywall. You don't have to have a lot of tieback or all the things that are poisoning us. So I think people are beginning to recognize the spaces that we dwell in need to be healthy. And I think we're on the forefront. That's what brought me here in 1993 was the Energy Fair. And it ignited me. It got me to become a builder, which I was an elementary school teacher. So I think that it really is a part of the character here. And I think it also is going to put us on a leading front, which after 35 years, it'd be nice to have it actually meet the moment and for us to take leadership. I think that the videoing of this year is going to be phenomenal. There was a guy at the demo site that had this like round camera that was doing a surround, and he's going to do all kinds of incredible things. And I think that the Energy Fair works, the website also has really gotten an upgrade. So we have continuing educations that are being videoed, so people can see those from all over the country or all over the world.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it very much. Daniel, Greg, did you have something you'd like to say?
Yes, I do. This is Dan Gray. I live out in the Baca Grande, and I found out some new information that I wanted to share with everyone having to do with the Baca Grande Water and Sanitation District and Crestone and our wastewater treatment agreement, our IGA, intergovernmental agreement. Anyways, just background information, the budget for the Baca Grande wastewater and water service is around $2,400,000, and half of that comes from sales tax or from the fees, and the other half comes from property tax. And so roughly we're talking about $1 million for the wastewater budget for the Baca Grande, which includes Crestone. And what I just learned is that between 60 and 75% of the $1 million goes for the treatment plant. And the rest, 25% to 40% goes to maintaining the collection system out in the Baca. So roughly $700,000 goes to the water treatment plant. And Crestone is around 30 or is 20 to 30% of our wastewater load and 30 to 40% of the organic load. And so that means that Crestone should be paying the Baca Grande around $210,000 a year to process your wastewater. And that's being really generous. That's $210,000. Oh, no, 210. Okay, I got 210,000. So that's like 17,500 a month, not the roughly 2,000 to 500,000 or 5,000 you've been paying recently. At least I looked at the budget, and I think Crestone pays the Baca Grande between $50,000 and $60,000 a year to process your wastewater, and you should be paying us $210,000 a year. That's basically my point. But what's really bad about this is that the citizens of the Baca are subsidizing Crestone, and they never got to vote on that. And we have Tabor Bill of Rights, taxpayer Bill of Rights. At some point, we didn't get to vote on this 20 years ago, but we should make sure that we get to vote on it this time, because I figured it out. It's not as bad as you guys think. There's roughly 1,800 district members, and they pay approximately $130 extra a year to the Baca Grande wastewater to subsidize Crestone. But it seems like they ought to have at some point an opportunity to vote on whether they want to pay that $100+ a year to subsidize Crestone or not. I think the Tabor Bill of Rights should afford us that, and we need help to have that election. I mean, if that's what the Baca Grande votes for, I'm all for it. But we should have a choice, and we've been denied that. And the media doesn't represent the Baca Grande, and neither does the Baca Grande POA. Nobody represents the people of the Baca Grande. No one.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate it. Anybody else? Citizens' comments? Online? Okay, we'll move on. Thank you, everybody, for your comments. Next, we have number 7, presentation of bills. What presentation of bills? You can do that, this. Yep. I have to turn on.
So first of all, we have the public works utility water sewer bill, so that's us paying for the public works utility bill.
Could you use your microphone, please?
Turn it up.
No, I just speak into it. You just gotta.
How about I just talk?
You gotta go like this.
Okay, so do you want me to pass these around, or what would be preferable, Dennis?
I have a question.
Yep.
Why are we changing this format?
These bills were supposed to have been approved last week and not at a board meeting.
Is this okay? Can we do it like this time? And from now on, I will make sure that we do it that way. So so you want to make sure these are paid or examined by the finance committee prior to, is that what I'm hearing?
That's what we've been doing for several months, yeah.
Well, we've been doing it various ways. I think you did it like this, the last meeting.
Last regular meeting, we hadn't approved, but
It was not regular meeting.
well, let's move on and just,
Okay.
do it this way right now, because this is what we have.
Okay, so just to be clear, you would like me to call a meeting, finance committee meeting, the Friday before the regular meeting or Fridays
We can
before?
talk about the procedure later. Let's just get through this process so we can keep the
This
meeting.
is all about the procedure and I want to be clear on it. I want to have a
Let's do
clear
it during the
direction.
treasurer's report. Right now, we're
Yeah.
just gonna present the bills because
Okay.
that's what we have.
So we have a utility bill, public works utility bill for 506. It's catching up for this year.
And just kind of,
We have, an invoice for basically half of the amount approved to pay groundwork accounting company to help with the transition to QuickBooks Online, which is still in process. We have a town cloud, some sort of software subscription,
I'm not sure, how do you want to do this?
149. We have utility, Baca Grande water and sanitation bill for 4,425.71. We have a Crestone Eagle invoice for October for 348. And all your water consulting,
We'll do it with this.
750.
Whoever wants to see them.
Robins, the printer. Maintenance, 142.50. UNCC, 54.18.
If this one, then,
That's a new one.
it's a new one, but are we now back in communication with them as far as, how they're billing us as far as the UNCC, the,
811. As far as I know, we are. Yeah.
They're billing us 129 for all out, so
$1.29?
Yes.
So here we had 38.
we got a lot of.
And is it everywhere in town? It doesn't matter if
It's mostly in town.
it's not like, okay, and they're definitely keeping it to our jurisdiction from now on?
Yeah.
Right,
And a bill from Conley Waste for 125. So Dennis, I did offer to get together with you and Adam on Friday. I put that in my message. Or any time between Friday and today. To review bills. It was in my message, it was in my email on Friday. Along with the draft of the 2025 budget, are we moving right into the treasurer's?
oh, we have to make a motion to approve these bills.
I make a motion to approve the bills,
Pay the bills.
pay the bills.
Is there a second?
Second.
Adam, more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, now treasurer's report.
Okay, I'm just passing around the draft 2025 budget that the finance committee and I developed.
Here you go, Susan.
And of course, it's just a draft and we'll be revising it soon.
When do we have to, have this, draft approved and,
Tomorrow.
I thought it was the 15th.
No.
The draft, it needs to be submitted to the board by the 15th.
Oh, sweet.
The public hearing for the 2025 budget is in November, it's for the second special meeting.
Okay. Is there, a chance that we could actually look at this and then maybe have some sort of work session that we actually really go through it? That's something as a board, as opposed to just the finance committee?
I'm not sure what the timing is on when we have to present it to the public, a draft.
It needs to be at least 10 days before the public hearing. So
Okay, then yeah,
So.
That was November 15th. We need to notify the public by November 15th, Ariel, is that what you said? Or is that in the
it'll be posted in the paper on the first, but it needs to be posted in the boxes. I wanna say 21 days at a time.
Okay.
I apologize for saying 15.
So we have,
What do you think?
if we're supposed to have the draft budget by the 15th and we have to review it as a board to really go through it, we're gonna need a work session sometime in the next week.
How does next Monday look for people?
21st,
I'll be out of town.
Friday, 18th.
I'll be out of, Sunday, or when, are you leaving on Monday?
I'm leaving Saturday and I'll be back on Wednesday night.
What about,
And what's your, when are you leaving?
I'm leaving on Wednesday and I'll be back Friday night,
So like maybe the following week is what it sounds like.
Thursday next week, the 24th.
Thursday's not great for me unless it's in the evening,
That's
Okay.
the only time I could do it.
like after 6,
I could do it in the evening. It's okay. That actually.
like
works
after
better
dinner,
for me.
after dinner.
Evening works best for me.
The 24th at like, 6:30,
Yeah.
huh? 6:30 to 8.
I-
Yeah,
Is that, what
Dennis,
about
what about
you
you?
guys? Is in Dennis?
What do you say now, the
24th in the evening, 6.
What day is that?
It won't give us enough time if we have to do a lot of, any, adjustments, but we will be able to adjust. We have the 28th as a meeting anyways. We could also, I think we should also have it on the agenda for the 28th that we're gonna be discussing the budget as well. So we have 2 times that we're looking at it, doing our homework prior to the first work session, and then we have it on the agenda to look at on the 28th as well. That way we're all getting on the same page with it, and we can go through Warren's concerns and really get a handle on it a little more. The 24th work in the evening, is it?
I won't be available, but I think it's more important for the finance committee.
Well, I think it should be the whole board, but it doesn't have to be, I mean, at least extra members of the board, you know, I would like to be there, and I think if Kim's available, she might wanna be, you know, whoever can be available. We don't need a quorum, but we do need to post it.
Yeah,
So let's do the 24th, 6:30
for a work session.
work session.
What time are you doing?
6:30 in the evening.
6:30.
And then will you also put it on the, yeah, I should have to, announce it, and then we also put it on the agenda that we're gonna be looking at it on the 28th as well. And then does that give us enough time for the citizenry to be able to look at it and everything will be,
Yeah, that's also.
Um, I just want to say then, on October 23rd, I'm gonna be having knee replacement surgery. So I won't be here for the 24th, and then on the special meeting on the 28th, most likely I won't be here. So I just want to let everybody know it's gonna be important to make sure we have a quorum.
Okay.
Okay,
Make sure to reach out if you need anything.
yeah, 28th, sorry, the 11th is our regular meeting too, so just, bring that down. Of November. Okay, so we have that set, so we have this to look at and review and do our homework. So really, if we can just take a calculator out and start going through them and figuring out if we're balanced so that we have a balanced budget.
And before that, perhaps, we should get together and discuss grants, because that is the big hole in this. You just really do not have a concept yet.
Of the grants.
Mhm.
I'm wondering how they carry over if basically we spend a certain amount on grants this year that were on our 24 budget, and then we spend that, and then whatever carries over to the next year, we subtract that from what's left in the grant. Am I sounding like that's the way it's supposed to go with the budget?
Yeah.
I think Randy and the treasurer and either somebody from the finance committee or the mayor need to have a session as soon as possible to dissect that. And if it's being suggested, did you just suggest that we look at this?
Yeah.
Then I think we need to have a copy
This is.
where it says the previous years, because there's nothing to
Oh,
compare
right,
it to
right.
here. So it's pretty hard to review it, and there's definitely things that don't make sense. Like why line 65316 is under projects. It's on the last page.
What was that, Adam?
65316.
And then, but yeah, it's gonna be really difficult to review this without previous years in front of it, for it to look like a budget.
So that's just a heading, above that total projects, that's just a heading for the above lines, the lines above total projects. So it's actually then below that, yeah,
I see,
is total water and sewer expenses.
that goes above.
This one.
Does what you have match what we did at the finance committee budget thing?
For the most part, yes. There's one number that I altered, and I was going to confess this right away. So,
Which number?
it's, tax revenue. I saw that on the profit and loss, right now we have 17,500. So I took the initiative to alter that number from 15,500 is what.
On property tax?
Correct,
Because that's what we actually,
right now, yeah.
okay.
So what about all the items that have question marks?
You mean on our work, sheets that we were all together, question marks?
Well, we
Yeah.
had question mark about the highway using tax fund, we had question mark about the charging station.
Well, safe to say those have not been resolved. So.
The
still under
charging
question.
station sounds like it's a zero.
Mm,
Do you guys get that
not
email?
exactly. not
Yeah,
exactly
about
zero.
that the company
Yeah.
is no more.
Yeah.
Yeah. The company that runs that charging station, I guess, has I don't know, did they file bankruptcy or something?
Something like that.
I didn't get that.
So that charging, it's actually something we should probably at least put on the next agenda, is like that charging station is on its way to not being functional anymore.
And there's no other operator to take over?
That I wasn't in the email, but I think there probably will be somebody who, you know, eats that company, and then maybe we'll just have to get into a new contract with them. Wanted to see, I guess.
Are you paying for the charging for people for free at this point again?
I don't know if that's quite the case. We just got an email in the last week saying that that company was going out of business, and we'll have to, you know, talk to them about what to do.
We've only got $300 in anticipated revenue there anyway, but
We got $800 worth of expenses.
sure, I'm just saying,
So if people are using it, you've got no income coming in,
right.
and it's virtually free again, the way it was, and nobody still knows what the income is, because nobody has any idea.
Well, we're expecting, based on this new news, that the income will be nothing. But point taken, and I guess maybe we'll put it on the agenda to solve that.
Maybe turn it off.
Turn it off, you're gonna put a big plastic bag over it.
So there has to be,
Duct tape, I don't care.
there has to be some way to shut it off.
You can shut the power to it off from the box there.
I mean, I think in the long, it's a different discussion.
We have to figure it out.
So in
So,
the meantime, if we're getting billed, we should just shut it off. We're not collecting any income. It's an expense we don't need.
I don't really,
do you wanna just put it on the next
yeah,
agenda so that and then maybe you can do a little research on that for us?
I can look into
See, I
it.
mean, maybe there is a company that will take it over.
or maybe
We can just email
put
it back.
put our own card reader on it.
It's gonna be in bankruptcy for years, you're not gonna have anybody take it.
We'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yes.
More about the hub. There were a couple of questions that one of them was it worthwhile to continue the relationship we had with the county on the snow removal? And I think the answer to that is yes, we're gonna keep that. We're gonna look for some better coordination, with the county as to when they'll be here. And then we'll be able to back up after they come through at a better time. The other question was, that I had in my mind was how much money, it actually was, and it didn't seem that, I think we're averaging about 14,000 a year on that.
That we bring in,
Pardon?
that we're receiving.
Right, I went to the state's website and looked at how that money is distributed across the state. And, I need to call someone to help me understand better on our share. I think there was nothing given to us this month. But it was, I think there was a check for $1,200 or something like that for 2 months. I don't recall what it was. But, there are communities that are getting substantially a lot more, of course, according to what's used in the population, but we're far from where they are, so. Outside of that, I don't have anything more. I'd like to learn more about it myself. Thanks.
Kim, on line 4600. Do you know what that is?
Grants, the grants, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I sent you a message about this. I don't know if there's a problem getting my emails. So I sent a message to Dennis, Adam, and also Warren. Did you guys get that on Friday?
I didn't,
I got an email on Friday.
Okay,
breaking down, it didn't break down the number. I got an email last week with a question, but nothing breaking down the six.
no, I was just making clear that you actually have received my
Yes,
email. Dennis, have you?
I got
I sent you a draft
a
of this.
great deal of amount of emails from you. Was that the 11th?
It was Friday.
Feel
Yes, Friday the 11th. So it is. So that number balances with the expenditures, grant expenditures, so that I felt it represented more clearly the draft budget, the rest of the budget, if that makes sense.
Which line does it balance with?
It would be on the total grant expenditures. Tell me where you can find it. I highlighted it in what I sent you.
Total projects?
Can you, if you, yeah, so it will be the same number. 55,954. Are you seeing it
Yeah, I see that.
in expenditures? Which number, which line is it?
63000.
May I get a copy of what you're looking at?
So.
It's
yeah,
actually,
that's-
it's 64000. So it was simply meant to balance out because we do not have clear numbers. Those numbers could be zero. That would be clear.
Well, but many of these line items under projects are not related to grants at all. So it doesn't really balance out. Or at least some of them,
So they're all above that line.
right? So we'll have to,
Yes, there's a lot of work to be done on this. I did not do an appendix. We never did an appendix together. So there's everything to be done on the
And then
grant.
there was a comment by Lauren earlier talking, this is off the budget, but, talking about our CDs, he's saying that they were supposed to be at 79,000. I'm seeing on our sheets, investments equal totaling 132,000, and that's what it says.
Hundred and 32,000 is your total.
Oh, but the
Referring
CDs,
to the water and sewer grant, water and sewer CDs that were in place here on the 2022 going into 24 and previously. Those three grants currently only add up to 60,000 something.
when did we have CDs that were specific to water and sewer?
When you had water and sewer enterprise, which is still there, so the CDs should still be specific to them based on their number. And there's a $19,000 discrepancy.
so what about, so if we have 132 in CDs and, wouldn't those be part of that?
No,
No, they're separate?
none of them add up. You had CDs for different things previously, okay? The three CDs that were for water and sewer at the time, off the top of my head, it was roughly 21,000 something in water and 54,000 and something in sewer. And that combination was like 76,000 in 2021. So with interest added to it, maybe it's up to 79,000 at the end of 23. All I'm saying is here on your budget, what you've got, it's $79,000.
When you say the budget we've got, which one are you looking at there?
2023,
23?
2023 going into the 2024 year. Okay, it has the projected amounts for the budget for 2024. And
Okay, I would like to make a suggestion here, that instead of speaking in hypotheticals, you come and look with me, you know, when we go through it.
I see it here, I
fine-tooth
see the
comb. I don't think it'll be that
779.
difficult.
297 is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
That's supposed to be carryover.
Okay, you take those
Yeah.
three things off your list of the CDs you currently have that add up to $132,000.
2,000, right? Uh-huh,
Based on the CD number
uh-huh,
for those three accounts.
right.
They currently only add up to $60,000. There's $19,000 that doesn't seem to be in those CDs. That's
Well, if it disappeared, we should be able to track down
hopefully.
where and when that happened, so let's.
So
look
do you
at that
know,
together.
do you know the three CDs that, do you have the numbers on them?
Yes. 9401, 9501, and 1636.
9501 and 1636. I'm just gonna add them up.
95, can you say them again?
Here, 94.
9401,
Mhm.
9501, and 1636. And I don't know that I have your sheet that adds up to 132, but
7.
those three numbers are there.
13. Is there one that's missing? Is that?
I'm still waiting for the names of the accounts.
What they're, yeah, what they actually,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, we don't know, there might be one more CD or no? Are those definitely the
Now,
three?
based on what you previously reported to the state, at some point,
How are you referencing which one's which, going through the bank statements to look at the account numbers to see which one's which?
what you have gives you, there's a sheet which.
Yeah,
They
I see the sheet.
showed me the other day, right, and you go through that.
You are going through the account numbers and referencing with fast account numbers, so you know which one's which?
So you have these numbers, you have
I'm
the,
misunderstanding without an.
no, you have the, I see what he's saying. So the sheet that we received
Yeah.
basically has just a list of numbers. And we're just assuming that those are for what you're saying they're for, because we don't have an actual correlation.
It's actually on the balance sheet, I mean.
It is, but we don't know what they are, like, you know.
Well, water, the WF, right? WF indicates the water. their
So
water
what's
account,
18
water
M 100-5381? Is that a CD? Is that one of our,
18M 100, that's a
fund. That is one of the water.
46, that's a water line.
I'm at the disadvantage of not having access to your paperwork that you have in front of you. I have a copy at home, I could go get the copy that matches.
This is what
yours.
we're
But I
looking,
have no idea what you list them as, other than by account number.
neither do we.
And the account, that's a big problem. The account numbers that are listed here on the budget stuff that you submitted have those three accounts that are listed on your sheet, ending in those three numbers, right? The 4-digit.
Yeah, I got them, yeah,
Right? You
Yep.
see those?
yeah.
And if you add up those three that appear here as $79,000, they only add up to $60,000.
So we've got Warren's problem with the CDs that needs to be checked
Resolved.
and resolved. And then we need to change the names of these things so we actually know what they are. But continuing this back and forth right now
Yeah,
feels really unproductive.
I agree.
Yeah.
We're gonna move on,
Let's
but
stop.
both,
But the-
this is just showing that that we're basically either we're missing a CD
Yes.
in his assessment, or he is right,
Yes.
Or you're missing $19,000.
or we're missing $19,000.
So can we
Which we need.
direct you to look into that?
All the water and sanitation CDs that, here it says that it's supposed to be 79,000.
Okay,
Water sense. Okay.
I would like to point out that, some of the accounts now are named. I don't know if anybody noticed that.
Yeah, they are.
Did anybody?
There's
notice
natural
that?
burial, there's,
I will give my
yeah.
solid attention to the CDs, just like a missile.
Well, the other thing is, that some of these CDs are actually expiring as well.
Okay, and I was going to get into that, if I,
Okay.
that would be a good time to continue.
So the grants that you currently have do not match the amount of money you're spending on this budget.
Right, and she said that earlier, that we have to figure those out and make sure that we are accurate on what the grants are for. And that we're spending appropriately, and how that carries over, whether we spend, if we spend some for this grant this year, for instance, get reimbursed, how does that get accounted for? And then how do we carry it over to the grants for 2020, the grant accounting, budgetary accounting for 2025?
Right. Emphasis.
I think you have some serious problems right here. The amount of grants you have, you don't add up to $607,000 anywhere. Okay, that's point one. Or two,
Where we have the water, we have the sanitation grant, which is,
$480,000.
okay, and then we have,
So didn't we just schedule something for October 24th to do all of this work? Is that correct?
Great.
Yes,
Okay.
and
If
to
we need
the
more
grant
information.
point, we need to get in touch with Randy and set up some kind of meeting to just get like the solid numbers and the solid
for those
direction
two, for the three grants, we have the.
Before
water-
October 20th.
before October 20.
There's
And
something
is
that,
that something that Kim's doing?
I think maybe Ariel, can you reach out to Randy?
hold on a second,
Sorry,
there's something else that we need to do, part of today's agenda. And that's to decide what we're gonna do with the sanitary sewer.
Right.
It's obvious that whatever money is left is nowhere near
Enough.
enough
Right.
to complete what was shown on that original grant application and approval. So the next step here is where do we cut that down? The other one is we finally now have some information from the engineer on the structural problems of this building in a fashion that if we wanted to pursue with that, we have something to go out for bid on.
Okay, is that an agenda item today?
It is. The agenda item, I think, was summed up in what had happened at the 11th meeting. Randy had said we needed to make these decisions.
This is on, G, I believe, old business G.
Okay, so then we have a session on October 24th to review this budget. So before then, we need this to be in budget format with year's preceding numbers. And we need more information, which is account names, and we need to be in touch with Randy and.
So I would like to be the one to reach out to Randy about the budget.
Okay, so you'll do that before the 24th. And after we get to these agenda items, then we'll have more information to give to Kim and Randy.
Right, I think so, yeah.
All right,
And also for us, if we wanted to pursue,
sure,
uh,
of course.
and in reaching out to Randy, we need information on where we stand with our grants and what is the procedure of, how does the money roll over? What does that look like?
Mhm.
I, I guess I attended a different meeting on Friday because I thought that we really had all that direction. From Randy.
Randy needs to
That's the old one.
assist us in
That's the,
writing those numbers down.
that's the old one.
And I didn't get any of that.
That was the original one that we came up with from the year before. Now we're on to the new one that is that
With the stickers.
Yes,
stickers.
So on the treasurer's report, what was our sales tax this month?
I can't just off the top of my head say what that number is. I don't know. I can bring it to you and I'll go and look.
Okay, that would be valuable.
Yeah.
Anything else in the treasurer?
Yes. So I just wanted to point out that we now are in motion, at least we have signed, some of us, to start the new accounts that have been,
Two new ones?
there were three.
I only saw two. I signed on two.
Yeah, I'm gonna get with Lisa on that. There are three. And I transitioned the one account that had $100 in it for years that was payroll to the security deposits. So that's done. It didn't need any paperwork or anything to do that. So. Okay, I was going to talk about this when I was in the bank. It was brought to my attention. We discussed the CDs in general. By the way, the bankers who came and presented, Warren had the same recollection that they were going to reach back out to us.
Correct.
So that, for some reason, hasn't happened, but I've been to the bank and spoke to Lisa about the CDs. One of them is maturing here. It's the one, apparently water sewer. It's now, 16,244.80 is the balance. And it is maturing the 16th. And I will speak to Lisa and get it, to a 4%, from the current, I think it's 0.5%. So I did also want to bring up something that Warren had mentioned as a possibility, and that is, for instance, paying off the loan instead of continuing to pay DOLA for the current loan. We could save that interest. I think there's, I'm not sure, maybe three more years. And so another CD that is maturing soon is the one on this summary, for 31,000. Yeah, 31,078. It matures February of next year. And if you don't, I mean, there's penalties for doing things with the CDs before they mature. So it's a
And they're probably balance out at like.
Right.
If we took the penalty, it would probably balance out with the amount of interest that we're paying.
Yeah.
No, it wouldn't. That's what you had mentioned to me.
No, what I mentioned was most CDs only have 3 months worth of penalty if you cash them out shorter than the time period. Some, like these CDs, have been there for years, probably have no penalties involved in it. So 3 months of interest at 0.5%, as opposed to the 5% you're paying on the outstanding loan, is just like free money. That's all.
And there is also some benefit potentially in consolidating ones that mature, just to, there's, 7 accounts to manage and name and. Just deal with.
I didn't get, for some reason, when I go down, I don't know what's up with that, but I'm not getting any of the rest of the report, that you had sent us.
Oh, I think you have to wait for it to refresh.
I've been trying over and
It's the
over again.
PDF, yeah, it's the whole,
I'll look for it again and see if I can find it, but,
that's, yeah. Speaking of technical difficulties, my computer situation continues to be a problem. I did reach out and, asked this person that I thought would be excellent at doing what needs to be done, helping set up the computer, etc. That, yeah, he was not interested, in that opportunity. So I continue to use my home computer as the best computer that I have. And that's okay, but I have to take things back and forth, and it's, it's a heavily paper-based system that we have, so a lot of schlepping papers back and forth. And it's not your computer, it's not the town's computer, So I do think there's some kind of, I mean, Brent gets $100 for his cell phone stipend. I think there's some stepping up to do in that regard.
We have a computer though, that's
Yeah.
just waiting to be
Yep.
hooked up, so. Isn't it, when you plug it in, what, have you done that yet?
No, it's in the box. It's, you know, yeah.
I mean,
This is one thing that I've sort of drawn the line of doing.
is
I
setting up
don't
your own computer.
want to set up my own computer.
Okay.
I would like some IT assistance with that.
Okay,
So at the last meeting, you were gonna talk to that person,
I
they said
did.
they're not interested. We also put out a call for IT support. Is that, did we do that? Did we?
Yeah, it was in the paper, I haven't received anything.
Okay, so, we should reach out to some other folks to get, isn't there someone in Preston who does technical computer stuff? I think I have their card sitting on my
I think
desk.
it's Max, but Max, I'm not 100%, if it's PC based. But
Okay.
we'll see. Yeah. Dana, would you like to work on that?
Sure.
Thank you.
I have one more item. It was a request from Adam to understand the sick pay and vacation pay accrual numbers. And I have that right here. Sick pay and vacation pay for employees accrues at the same rate. It is 0.05 hours per hour worked with a maximum of 166 hours.
Okay.
166 hours.
Maximum of 166 hours in any of those.
From year to year accrual. Is that what it means?
And I don't know if we have a policy like on carryover.
We don't carry over vacation, sick is the only one that carries over from year to year.
So a person can get 166 hours of sick pay?
Sick pay and
Sick
vacation.
pay and vacation.
Combined.
They're separate.
They're separate.
So 21 days of vacation and 21 days of sick pay a year.
I think it can be adjusted, I don't know, I mean, it's a drop down menu on that, so I'm sure that there's a way of. That might be the, yeah, 0.05, not 0.5.
160,
There you go, 0.05.
but up to 166 hours of sick pay.
I think
But that's- but
I don't think
this is the
I don't
default.
think it is different. I don't think it's different from the previous years. I think it's been that way.
166 hours.
I believe so. Is the intention that-
My feeling is that this is something that that QuickBooks created. And what happens when you drop that menu down? Does it give you other options or?
That's a
Yes,
lot.
there's a drop.
Seems like a lot.
That's spelled out in their personnel manual?
Yeah, and I don't know how one would accrue that much. I mean, I'm just looking at like my numbers.
I mean, that's like 42 days of sick pay and vacation a year.
And I'm not sure, but like I said, if that's based on like overtime possibilities, cause it seems like a lot. Did you do it? I didn't run the numbers on that. So on a, 40-hour a week.
Times point. 2, so you get, for every 4 hours, every 40 hours, you get 2 hours of
Right on.
sick pay, 2 hours of.
You can only accumulate if you're a full-time employee on 50 weeks, 80 hours.
Right. Well, if you're doing 40 hours a week, then it would be 100 hours.
And maybe that 166 is indicating that's the max for carryover.
She does 40 hours.
I don't know.
For one person.
One person, yeah. But yeah, if it was 40 hours, it'd be 100, if it was 80 hours, if it was.
This seems like something we could talk about at the work session.
Okay. We'll bring it back up. We should look at our policy and how many you can accumulate over a year. And knock that back down. a little bit, because 166 is quite a bit.
I'm not sure we're understanding what that 166 represents.
I
It
think-
sounds like 2 hours for 40 hours, is the maximum goal for each, is that what?
2 hours for 40 hours.
Yeah, and so I don't know what that 166 represents, is that just like?
Well,
how
I
much you
think it's
can-
if somebody actually was like working.
Work the 100 hours a week.
100 hours,
And
yeah,
that would be, that'd be subject to the approval of the board,
100 times.
that would not be a
five.
realistic or
You
reasonable.
get five times 50 equals 250. So yeah, you could, if you were working 100 hours a week.
Which you wouldn't be able to.
Right.
Physically or otherwise.
All right, are there any other questions, comments, concerns regarding treasurer's report? We're having a reevaluation at the attorney's.
And when is that?
That will be in the afternoon.
Okay.
And Adam, the sales tax for September was $39,253.40.
Where'd you see that?
It's in the profit and loss for I'm sorry, that's for September
I
2024.
think that's after the capital projects.
Right, it was 45
Yeah. That's right.
minus,
Okay, that's after capital reserves contribution. So 45,795.
So we're moving on to our finance committee report, which, did you guys meet? No. So we're going to meet as a work session on the 24th.
well, we met twice as a budget committee.
Yeah.
But
Do you have anything to report on
Well,
that?
that's all. Yeah.
Okay.
it was really, yeah, I would say it was really great having you there, Dana, making it Dennis, and it was awesome having you there too.
Very kind of you, Adam.
Of
Finance.
course it was next time.
All right, we're on to my report. Thank you. My report for October regular meeting 2024. I'm now 3.5 weeks into my recovery from bilateral hernia surgery. I want to thank the board and staff for helping to keep our town flowing and alive while I've been getting stronger and more mobile every day. I should be back to relative normal in a couple more weeks. I think we have more on our plate than any other time in my administration, in our administration. And I'm really wanting to get to the other side of a lot of the items we're working on. It's definitely a long list of important items and important ongoing decisions. Some of these items will continue on for years to come, but a lot of them can be cleared a lot sooner. First, we have some important financial hurdles that are on the forefront of our activities. We are still needing to decide if we are going to supplement our budgets from 2024 back to 2021. There's more to be said about that. We now have 2025 budget that is still in the process, and we're discussing that. We have a 2023 audit that is being worked on by Ronnie Farmer. I realize that a few board members have called multiple accountants and bookkeepers. We are still on the lookout for somebody, although I just found somebody today that I'm gonna bring up later. We need to get a wide overview on the past and future financial state. As of writing this, I have one option, and I will discuss further. I'm really glad and thankful to our finance committee and budget officers for putting in the extra time to get a handle on the 2024 supplemental budget and the 2025 draft budget. I'm really grateful to all of you and know we have much more work to do this next month. I want to schedule a budget finance work session as soon as possible, so we did that. Dennis and I had a productive meeting with our town engineer, Matt Hudson from SGM. We went through the various projects, and I'll be sending him our CAD file for the cemetery LiDAR survey, so he can assess. Assessing our town engineer, accessing our town engineer opens up a wide range of options for us. In most cases, we still need to go out for bid. However, their expertise and advice in a wide range of engineering topics will still benefit the town, and we should try to use them when possible. When the time is right, we need to move forward with finding, learning, and using a software that consolidates and organizes the cemetery plots. So when the expansion happens, we are ready and able to professionally sell and track lots. I'd like to direct our clerk to look into that further. We also might have lots that hit their 75-year mark and we can resell them and buy some time. But we need the software to help recognize this. The fire mitigation grant is moving with two steps forward and one step back. Our newly hired manager is resigning due to personal reasons. Allison McClure, who is our grant administrator, has applied for the job under the last request for proposal. Due to her vast experience and understanding, this grant will be in excellent hands and the work will turn out being far more efficiently handled because of the overlap in jobs and requirements. We need to look at her proposal and decide as a board whether to contract her as our grant manager. She's already our administrator, just so you guys know. On October 11th, we had held a town hall style meeting at the Cloud, which was designed to educate the town residents on fire behavior, fire science, and the importance of removing fuels from the town proactively. Baca Fire Chief Ben Antonowitz and Safety Officer Daniel Johnson presented their very in-depth understanding of why fire mitigation is so vitally important. About 15 residents showed up and most felt pleased about the transparency and overall offering of this event. We will be doing more of these again. Please communicate with your neighbors and neighbors about volunteering their mitigation hours. We have forms ready. We are waiting on a second proposal from the fire mitigation crews so we can analyze and move forward on hiring and doing the actual work. I'm really excited to see the results of our board retreat with Randy Sneed. We went deep into our underlying visions for the community and we're able to see where our common visions come together. I realized that until we get through the wide range of fundamental projects already started and in the mix, we really can't take on anything more. Safety and well-being is our main task as government officials. Most of the large projects we have on our plate right now revolve around keeping our town safe and well. If we look for federal or state grant, the bridge is a big issue that's come up. We talked to the engineer about it. If we look for federal or state grants on the bridge, they will make us follow the highest standards, widening and over-engineering the structure, probably costing anywhere from 1.3 to 1.5 million. If we decide to replace the bridge ourselves, we could downgrade the standards in the width, but it might still cost us $750,000. The bridge might get condemned in the next couple of years. The main suggestion we got from our engineer is to consider making it a footbridge only for pedestrians. So that's something we have to discuss because we're at a point where it's gonna come up. Both Dennis and I thought it was a good idea, but it's a town bridge and it's something that, you know, people who are out there are gonna have to go this way or are gonna have to go this way to get over to their properties. The other stuff that is on our plate, we have drainage issues that need to be looked at. We got an engineer report from SGM regarding our drainage that they did, and obviously Burnt Gulch and North Crestone are both high priorities for us, and we're really gonna have to start thinking about that before a flood as opposed to after. We have things on the agenda with the attorney that we're all working on. We had a really good meeting. Ariel and I had a great meeting with him regarding that, and we have the IGA with the Baca Water and Sanitation. We have a very simple 3-mile amendment, 3 Mile Plan amendment, which I finished and should be sent off to the county to approve. We have the Living Wisdom Village stuff that we have to work on and we're gonna work on today. We have some stuff with our codes that has to be adjusted. And other stuff as well, but the code book, update is something we have to decide whether we want Ariel to, how much we want her to do on that. I think we decided already to move forward, but giving her maybe extra time to really get that together. And I don't know how that works because I think they have a deadline for the end of the year. Is that right?
Yeah.
So we'll get as much as we can done with that, I guess. One other thing I brought up that I don't know if, the board wants to consider, but I think Ariel is doing a lot of managerial duties in the office and, we might want to consider, instead of hiring a manager, which we obviously don't want, or we don't want an administrator, looking at overtime for Ariel as a manager. And so she would get paid overtime hours doing managerial duties if she's up for it, but you know, it's like 10 hours of that. Something to consider, you don't have to make a decision on it, but that way she has 40 hours of clerk duty and then she would have 10 hours of managerial duty. And those are, you know, heavier things that I think require, you know, a higher pay grade. And she knows already the, job description on the administrative stuff, and I think she's already doing a lot of that work. So we just have to decide if that's something we want to approve, maybe put it on the agenda for next meeting. If she's up, if you're, want something you want to do.
So I think that's worthy of discussion. Are you looking at 50 hours total, which seems like an awful lot? So are you
Well, she's
thinking
already limited,
30 and 10 breakdown?
well, she's already limited on 40 hours for clerk, and that seems like quite a bit, or, right, you have quite a bit of work that you're trying to narrow into those 40 hours.
Yeah, so we're on prioritize.
So I was thinking you could break off anything that you're doing that's managerial or administrative as a separate, job that would go into those extra 10 hours. If you're up for it, if that's something you want to do.
I'm not in favor of anybody working 50 hours a week for the town.
Can I say something as
Yeah.
well? Before we bring that up to a board meeting, I'd like to maybe sit down as a committee or whatever, just talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, I would say it's not, I'm just bringing it up as an idea, something that came up only because of the limited hours that she's already squishing into her or limited work that she's squishing into her 40 hours.
I just don't think 50 hours is a good work-life balance.
I don't think it's necessarily sustainable, I think. I mean, obviously Ariel's like a superhuman, but, that's, I don't know, but if that's like also part, I feel like if that was a discussion, then obviously she needs to be part of it.
I agree.
I think at some time we could look at the structure of what the duties are that she's performing. I would not like to see it be anything more than 40 hours, so that, you know, as we're going through the budget process and we're looking at job descriptions, you know, it doesn't hurt for us to take a look and see what are the duties that are being performed. But I think that's a longer discussion.
Okay. Lauren, what did you want to say about that? No. Okay. One other thing that came up this week that, probably is something that we will not be moving forward on, but I want to bring it up, is that, Hannah Strong had 30 years ago bought this box. It's basically a historical box of records from, they're called the Adams Files. And they have some things like, grant deeds, railroad contracts, they have the original plot of Crestone, you know, the oldest map of Crestone in there. There's, I mean, all sorts of bills, receipts, I mean, things that are kind of like, historical archival records. And she found a grant, it's a $300,000 grant that is available to any Colorado town that wants to work on their archival records. And she said that, you know, you can get a piece of that 300,000, and, she's asking for us to, she's asking if we're interested in looking into this, these archival records and seeing if we wanna apply for a grant to get them. I, however, think that it's another project that, you know, would kind of require a lot more time and effort. And I'm asking her to talk to Adam State because their namesake comes from this particular gentleman who is here, and he was, a governor that owned the Baca, so that was, you know, there's just a lot of history that is, available in these records, and, I wanted to get the board's thought on that, if it's something that we wanna even pursue, or if we should just.
I mean, it sounds awesome, but it does sound like, more workload for our clerk and more workload for our treasurer and more workload for all of us when we already have like a fat laundry list that we need to take care of. It sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's cool, I mean, I'm gonna hand this to you to just take a look at what's in there.
So I would suggest if this is something that we would seriously consider, that we look at this as something that we job out to somebody. You know, there's people within our community who could be very qualified and could look at taking this on as a special project, but I agree, our staff is overwhelmed already. But we have, you know, the Crestone Museum, we have people associated with the museum. There's already been an awful lot of history compiled through some of our local books that have been written. Mary Flowers has done a tremendous amount of history work, so there's a lot that could need to be compiled. But I'm wondering, looking at with our town museum, it would be the sort of thing that I would say we just totally job out to another entity to do, and not have it be something for our town.
She went to the museum and asked Jim McAlpin if he was interested, and I think he just kind of passed it back to us, and, you know, he even said that he wanted to get a museum grant, sales tax grant, but, he doesn't really know how to apply for it. I guess they're pretty easy, but, so I've already talked to Allison McClure about working with him to do that, just a sales tax grant for the museum. And then it will come to us before we actually submit it. But anyway, I just wanted to put it out there because Hannah asked me to. I have the list of what's in the boxes, and you can just see if you know of anybody who wants to take this on, that would be great. Otherwise, we just kind of leave it alone, and maybe, again, I think Adams State would be a great resource for them because it is their namesake and this is all Adams stuff. So anyway, just wanted to bring that up and take a look at the file wherever it went.
There's a John Kinney in there.
Yeah, a lot of Kinney's.
Any relation?
Not that I know
There's Adams and Kinney in there.
of. Can we take a break?
Let's take a break.
Yeah.
Very good. I'll be back in 7 minutes. So 11:09. Sorry?
I'm sorry, my phone went off during the.
It's okay.
I'm gonna leave it in my car, I forgot.
No worries.
Just hit that button on the side.
That's what I did.
Oh, yeah.
You're not the first one, that's for sure.
Yeah.
For executive.
The first part will be executive, the second part will be public.
How long will it take?
It's gonna be later in the afternoon for sure, because we have our attorney's report at 1:30.
Okay.
And we have 2 executive sessions on there.
What about the other subject I'm curious to hear more about is about the Baca water and
That also will come up in the attorney's report. It is, let's see.
It's gone? Yeah. I gotta get it before the end.
So he doesn't have he has his own agenda that he brings to us, and he'll go through each item.
So maybe I could go home and zoom in.
Definitely.
Zoom in around 30 or.
Yeah, that's when he'll be here, that's when we start. We'll start right at 1.
Zoom in at 1:30.
And well, at least you'll find it, yeah, if you zoom in at 1:30, you'll find out exactly the order in which we're gonna
Okay.
do this.
I am.
I don't know, I'm later.
I did, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Mr. Warren, nice to see you again.
Yeah. Where's the people for talking?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you have any time?
Another one thing that I come to appreciate is that if you look at everybody in the whole body president area, every committee, every council, everybody who shows up for me. It's maybe 200.
That's great.
Out of maybe. Out of.
How's running your house? How things are running your house?
Yes.
Something you picked up?
I have
Yeah,
a lot of respect for them.
so I talked to Eddie and,
They care.
Andrew about it,
Yeah.
and
Excuse me.
they, like, I've got a bobcat, but it's out on the job right now, and so I told them about it, they're like, yeah, let's pick it up. And then they're like, if you had your machine and here,
Curious.
and I told them, yeah, once my machine
Oh,
comes
actually,
back, but I don't know.
She had to drop down.
Like it's on a job.
The reason why I asked is because while you were in session this morning at 9:30, Alcon came in.
Okay.
And they're gonna tap into that valve.
That's right in the corner.
That's right in the corner, and they did that area clear, and we were like, I'm like, yeah, I saw that brush there, I saw the rock there,
Yeah,
is that yours?
the rock, yeah, I guess.
I don't know. I thought I would. It's gonna have to be, they're gonna have to clear it out. You know, they were lining, so.
Well.
I'm gonna get out.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Who's-
I need some help with it, I can help with the brush, with the.
The brush, yeah, the brush. If,
You want it to haul out?
I want it hauled out, yeah.
I'll get Andy to haul it out.
Okay.
And
And
what about the rock?
The rock, well, who's the the main guy in Alpha?
James is the site supervisor in the pitch.
Maybe they can
They
help
both,
me,
they both can. Well,
you know, that shoes.
okay, they got machines, I'll get this to you about that part.
Yeah.
See if they want to do something, well, like they can put this on this.
Right, yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, just give the potential
Is your
fee.
neighbor?
Data, I don't think
So
so,
most of your stuff.
pretty much on me,
Here.
yeah.
Well, I'm gonna look at it and I'll just tell them to give you about the
Okay.
rock, and then I'll tell Eddie to pull, the brush. It looks like there's 2 big piles,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, thank you, thanks for the warning.
Yeah. Yeah, he said about a week, so we have about 7 minutes.
Okay, we'll get it done. Along with Ed.
But the reason I wanted to talk to you
Yes,
is somebody told me you were interested in affordable housing.
I'm very much interested.
Homeless housing stuff.
Very much.
Yeah. Where I want to go with that.
To tell you 2 specific ideas, I think, I, would welcome your time. One is, the Baca Grande now, anyone,
Also, the resolution is supposed to be declared vacancy, so
way up.
I made it.
2 years ago.
Thank
Ah.
I appreciate it.
People who are things. The other group is people who think that somehow having everybody else carry in an act of rebellion.
Did you eat the last day? I'm gonna let somebody else have it.
The self-builder got sick, wife's taking care of it, they're looking at unfinished house. Do her taxes, so one I can kind of. Officially, from the bottom, it's not part of our. I can't be doing visually, but I think visually, I want to see like the setting. Right, one thing is I'm looking for some help from people like you and our board. Is another is like, who are the people that will not really invite? I mean, wake up. That's bookmarking, that's one thing. We have 2 members left here. The other thing is, very interested. I got it right, I like maybe that where it came from. See, process will just see anymore. But, boy, I think it's hard to get us to the that's is really good housing. I could go take the advice.
I've been actually
Advice to be abandoned.
strange, but I've
Refurbished
been
them.
hopping up there really, even if I go to
There's a
bed,
lot of them.
I think I've never had that.
I don't understand you.
How, why?
There's a lot to watch. They're
really
probably town. Let's see if I can bring some
I'll get up in the middle of the night.
civic. To buy some of the refurbish them and sell them with deed restrictions. So that, you know, they stay affordable. But the point is that it's cheaper and faster to, you know, get out of that. Get into trouble. So there's a downside. But anyway, those are the 2 ideas that I'm working on, kind of downside of our doctors.
Cool. Actually, that was actually done.
Sensible.
So, just for your thoughts, and I'd be, I wasn't able to go get that on here.
Yeah, it's a short.
Your thoughts.
Really, it's urban experience.
Nice. Hello, Ario?
Well, they're also can be, you know, so in the parking.
Coming back into session, time is 11:10. Next on the agenda is clerk's report.
I'll keep this brief. I've mostly been working a lot on the Living Wisdom, project, answering questions, compiling information, and the like. One big thing, I did do last week was, the week before was attended a municipal court basics training. It was 8 hours of court training. So I feel we're in a much better place when we do eventually have municipal court. And I also have some ideas for how we could, update our current municipal system, and I'm gonna talk to the judge about that before I bring, any of that to you, just to make sure that works for her as well. I've been taking trainings on the HUTF and CTF reporting. I still feel like a lot of it's over my head, so I've been reaching out to various contacts to get more training on it and better understand what needs to be done. I do understand that the CTF report wasn't submitted, and that's why we didn't receive money this past month. I also did not have access to the system, so I'm working on getting access to that, so I can complete both of those reports. Another report that needs to be done again is a civil asset forfeiture report. The sheriff's office told me that they would take care of it for us from now on, but it seems that that was not exactly the case, so once I have access to that system as well, I will file that report. I also met with the Department of Homeland Security via Zoom, their cybersecurity department, to try and talk about ways that we could implement better procedures to protect ourselves here in town. I think I alarmed him a lot based on how we've been currently maintaining our files and information. But he has given me a number of people to contact and people have been reaching out to me as well. So I will try to create like. Sorry, I wanna try and create like a more built out cybersecurity plan for the town of Crestone. In regards to the cemetery maintenance software, I've been working on getting a quote from that. They need more information from us to move forward. I also want to see if there's anywhere else besides where we've been quoted before, which was Semified, to see if there's something cheaper that could be utilized by town. I've done the same thing with document management. We need a way to maintain our records other than just on hard drives, and there's lots of software programs that will do that. Everything that's been recommended, the one that's been recommended to me by most clerks and most Colorado municipalities are using is Laserfiche. But it's approximately like $5 to $7 grand for the year. So I want to do more research on that to see if there are other better fits for us. For the apartment upstairs, the rug has been removed and now we'll need to make a decision on flooring going forward. I would suggest before we make a decision that you all come see the apartment and what the floor looks like. And I just got a quote from Eddie today on flooring from Home Depot. It's not included in our packet, so I was gonna put it in the next packet for a decision. I also have a special events request that I bought up and asked to be added to our packet. It's for the fire department to throw a Halloween party. They're asking to have a controlled fire and music outside. Honestly, that about wraps up. Everything else I'm doing is the typical business licenses, worked on a liquor license for Ophia's, the renewal came up. Yeah, the building permits, Tom was here earlier and submitted a building permit application to the planning commission last week. It was approved by planning commission, Sam Case did his inspection and it was approved by him as well, so I'm gonna go ahead and issue the building permit. From my knowledge and what I read from the code, everything they submitted was accurate as well. That's the other thing I'm doing is reading the code, just a lot of reading everything. So I can better report it to you guys. So if you have any questions.
You said at the beginning of your report that you'd been in touch with Buck?
Yes, I've been talking, I took a 4-hour class with Huck. And other than that, I'm going to attend another class and they gave me a contact for someone who could answer more of my questions and help me like better understand.
Okay, so the reason why we didn't get anything for September was because of what?
Because of the CTF reporting, which I also don't fully understand at this time, but we did submit a report. And so we did get paid out the cut funds.
And we're responsible to produce that report?
Apparently, it was news to me. Yeah, I don't even have access to it, so I'm still working on having someone call me.
As you walk through that process, could you just every now and then shoot me a little highlight of what you're finding out
For
in
sure.
an email? Thank you.
The Conservation Trust Fund, report to DOLA.
Yes,
Yeah, I did that.
okay,
That's my responsibility for now.
okay, then I will reach out to them and see if they received it.
Oh, they received it, I received confirmation that they received it, so
Okay,
I can
that's
provide
fine.
some reports to check more if that would be appropriate.
Yeah.
So we should be receiving funds from, because we have the conservation, because that report's in that.
I was told that they were tied together, and that's why we didn't receive it.
So do we then receive? And we'll see the funds.
If we sent the CTF, and she said she, did, then that shouldn't be an issue anymore. Okay, I can double check. Okay.
Any other questions for the clerk?
Just for future conversations, what percentage of your time do you think is related to managerial versus clerk?
If I'm gonna be honest. Right now. Else to, overseeing different projects and then I have time to business licenses, building permits.
Could you? How's it going with Patty?
Really well.
Could she use more hours? Would that make a difference for you?
Talk to Patty about that, cause
We've already given.
yeah, she's currently at 32, 33. She got 8 extra hours
I thought she,
to work on treasury,
so she was at 24.
or she's at 20,
I thought she was at 20.
so she's at 28.
But I was told she's not being utilized for those 8 hours of
I don't know exactly.
finance.
The truth is that she's spending her time during the day still working on water sewer, so it's not like there's a hard stop and
Is she using 28 hours?
not always, I think maybe anywhere between, 24 to 28. And in the past weeks, she's had dentist appointments, she's had things that she needed to leave the office for that she didn't use those extra hours for.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you, Leroy.
Okay, John.
See you on the Zoom link.
Okay, John, do it later.
Yep.
Thank you.
But yeah, if she wanted more hours. We'd be happy to.
Would that make your job easier?
Any other comments, questions, concerns for the clerk?
Thanks for being proactive about stuff, for you.
Next.
Need to make a decision on this request.
Right, that was on the agenda, so we can either do it now or we can do it at, after the, at. What would you guys prefer? We'll do it now. What was the fire department's request for, use? And it's, of course, it's, I don't know exactly how that works, if we issue a permit, I mean, how does that work? Cause it's not on town land.
I
It's kind of
would think
just,
it would kind of be the same process as with T-Road, where they're just looking more for like their unapproval.
so this just brings up one quick point with events, when the event committee was meeting, we came up with a whole series of, kind of not requirements, but things that, we're gonna be requesting of people. However, at some point, we need to kind of turn that into a code, so that we have something that's in, you know, in our book that Ariel can follow, so when something like this comes up, it's considered, you know, an off premises event, and, you know, what's our rules for that, what do we wanna have that, so. Alice in Wonderland is the chair, but she kind of, you know, was gone the whole summer, so now we're in a place where we need to consider re-meeting this winter, and then bringing it to the lawyer to draw up a actual, you know, code, event code that we want, and so right now, we're just in a limbo state between having that code and what we're requesting, you know, like basic requests from event coordinators, so.
So we'd be looking at a checklist for a request for having a fire, that they have this and this and this. So I would make the motion that we, for this year now, that we would approve the fire department to have, an open fire as part of their, Halloween fundraiser, and, to, you know, have safety precautions, to have the fire monitored at all times. And, with having, either water or fire extinguishers on hand, throughout the, event.
Is there a second? We can go into discussion in a second.
Second.
Okay, Adam, discussion.
We don't have anything in the code just yet. And last year, they made the same request, and what we had said was it was on private property. And as long as they stay within the ordinances or the municipal code in reference to noise and so on and so forth, we didn't do anything.
We do have an open fire ban that's on the books at all times.
Right, it's got, has to be in a container, contained, right?
It's illegal to have any sort of campfire.
Unless they get approval, so this is, so then, we're not really approving the event, we're just approving fire of the event
Okay.
Or in this motion.
in this motion. All in favor?
There is a question of music as well. They said they'll have it indoors if their building is available, but it could be outdoors as they have done in previous years.
They have 15 days for their building to be available.
And it usually, I think it goes later.
They said it would be from 5 PM to 9 PM on Thursday.
So again, they have to follow the noise code, which is, you know, cause we don't have special events, we permit for all, you know, premises. But if they break the law, I mean, then what? Are we gonna send Mateo out there to? We're probably gonna get some complaints, I mean, that might happen, maybe not, though, I just don't really love being in this like in-between state where we don't really have any teeth. And we wanna approve a event that we know is gonna cause a little bit of a stir.
Is it 9, if they end at 9, isn't that within the noise ordinance?
They're still at 57 decibels or something, and it's way under what.
It'll be loud.
Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Benji. It's an awkward position.
Yeah, we've never adjusted our code, so it's just, it's like,
I mean, did we get complaints last year?
I don't remember Halloween being that, did they do that last year?
Yeah,
It was a fundraiser they had.
Huh.
yeah, they served music, they had a fire, they served music, they served food and music, and had a fire. Robin's band played, I think they went till 9. You know, all the kids came out and trunk or treated.
I would say we just don't give approval either way on the event noise, we just leave it, and if they get complaints, then we settle it later. We don't give approval or
Sounds
not.
like the only thing we have in our municipal code to stand on is what you're talking about is the,
57 decibels before 10,
and the fire restriction.
right? So,
Whatever else, they just have to follow.
I mean, we could,
If you had a house party.
like, not necessarily give them approval, but just like shoot them the part of the code. It's like, this is the town ordinance for what you're gonna do, so, you know, just please stay within that. And then you gotta deal with what comes.
it might not be the worst idea if, Mateo wants to go out and just have his decibel meter ready. I mean, not saying, that way we have a more baseline understanding of what the sound is coming off that place, I don't know.
I mean, I think it's a good event, you know, it's like, it's fun for kids, you know, it's their like Halloween thing.
What I did was, when we had the music festival this year, just went around and tracked it, just so that we had an understanding of what the sound was like, and it was definitely still under the, you know, decibel range, so we.
Yeah, if Mateo's into it, then you can definitely go around and collect data. I mean, that's kind of with the special events thing and not having something set in stone, we kind of made this year like the trial year to see where our issues lie, and we can still be doing that.
Yeah, I mean, we could, in my opinion, to have him at least get eyes on it, so that if we do get complaints, at least there's the town at least knows what was going on. So,
Maybe, I don't know if we could add a note to the approval for the fire. But I know, because they dig a big hole, and last year, I was told at least one person almost fell in. So if we could make a note that because there's gonna be kids present, that they need to pay extra attention to
safety.
that safety aspect. And I don't mean of fire spreading, but I mean of people being around it.
Let me ask you a question. If this is on private property and we're directing what's liable and not, do we now then become liable?
I don't think so,
Are you sure?
no.
Yeah, it's the lawyer.
I think we do.
Well, if they're letting people on their property and if it was on town property, we'd be liable. But if it's on district, I mean, it's actually public property, it's just not town property. Because it's owned by the district. It seems like if we gave approval for them to have an open fire, that's all our liabilities where it stands right there. I mean, they basically are, that's our code. You know, we have a code saying that you can't have a fire. And so we're giving a special approval for that. But we're not saying much about the event itself. Right? I mean.
I don't know, maybe ask the attorney.
Okay, we'll bring it up to the attorney's report. About events, I think we need to have an event code that covers this.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to,
I don't think did we vote?
oh, we voted on the fire.
Did we?
Just voted on the fire.
We have, our B is, for the attorney, C is, we can do C of new business. A and B are both when the attorney's here. C is, resignation of Melody Taylor's, managerial position on the Bricks grant. We just need a.
I make a motion, we accept the resignation.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next, we have a letter from Sean Manakis. He's already on the planning commission. We've put it out there that we have an open position and he has basically brought in his letter of intent. What's the board's pleasure on this one? To be,
How long have we had this notice out to the public that we were looking for someone?
I think it went out of the order.
I mean, I haven't noticed it in the boxes, I didn't know that was something I was supposed to do, but it's been 30 days since the resignation, almost. It was at the regular meeting.
So we have
We
60
have
days,
60 days.
So,
but it hasn't been
We
60
have
days.
60 days to.
When I finally resigned.
so we have, what, 60,
From the time we accept it.
Accepted the resignation.
so we have 60 days, okay,
Find somebody.
from the time to be able to continue soliciting the citizens. My concern is how many people know that there is an opening.
Was there any indication from Sean that he'd come in and let us talk to him?
Yeah, I mean, I thought he was gonna be at this meeting, but I could text him and see if he wants to come. I've pretty much been in contact with him, asked him to put in a letter because I thought that's what we had talked about. We had discussed asking for letters of, so this is where that came from. Personally, I would think that he would be a good member for our board. He's been in town for a while. He has a pretty good handle on what's going on in town. The main thing would be for him to show up and, you know, be able to be more present and, you know, he might not know, I've mentioned a little bit of the time commitment, but you know, it's a pretty big time commitment, as we all know. But I'm sure that once he gets involved, that there'll be more incentive for him to show up.
So I don't know this person, so I don't really have an opinion personally about him one way or the other. I just personally, when I look at the workload that we have and the amount of things we have to understand and become familiar with, I like to kind of give priority to people who have maybe served on the planning commission or who have attended meetings and have shown some interest in town government and have participated in governance and
Well, he is on the planning commission.
he's on the planning
Yeah,
commission.
so we would have to find a new member if he switched over.
So he's been on the planning commission currently.
For a month or two.
No, I think 4 or 5 months.
How many meetings have y'all had in those 45 minutes?
3.
2, 3?
He's been at 3 meetings, I believe. Is that right? We did cancel one.
Let's cancel for a holiday.
He was at the last meeting and. I don't know, he's our neighbor, I mean, you live now down the street, he took, the house that's between Carl Cole and Diane's. Sherry's house. Sherry's house. So he bought that house, so now he's a, you know, not a renter, he's an owner, that matters, to show that he's invested in his town. And if we go to special election, you're gonna have a harder time, so. I don't know if Ariel has the capacity right now to jump into a special election. So
Yeah,
even
we don't have to go through a special election. I just, you know, I'm just saying, within our time constraint, it's been 30 days, we have 60 days.
it hasn't been, has it been 30? I think it's been actually more than that.
I have to double check, but I know.
But either way, we've had one other option that, and I asked him to send in a letter of intent and we haven't received it,
Okay,
so.
yeah, I don't, like I say, I don't know this person, so I'm trying to rely on what the rest of the board thinks of their call.
I mean, I know Sean, I think he's, you know, he's a really thoughtful, soft-spoken guy, and he's really respectful, and he's done a lot of work in the community as far as like, he used to be part of the search and rescue teams, and, you know, doing fire mitigation work and stuff like that. So, I do have a lot of respect for him. Just for my own knowledge, the process here is within 60 days, we appoint somebody or we have to move to special election.
Correct.
That's correct? Okay,
We're on day 35.
we're on day 35.
If we've advertised for the position and not too many people have come forward, I couldn't see running a special election and having people take out petitions to run.
Yeah,
Doesn't add up.
Has anyone else come forward? Anyone else besides Sean?
Did Sean come forward or was Sean
Sean has come
pursued?
both.
So I think the question is, have we pursued anyone else?
I have asked one other person who had no idea, I mean, it was, Aaron, Sarah's husband, and, the only problem is, you know, we're gonna need somebody for the planning commission as well, if Sean does join the board, so, and then his wife's on the planning commission, Aaron's wife, so we won't be able to have him. But Aaron sounded like he was really busy, and will have an opening, is that right? I mean, you've talked to him as well. So,
I talked.
Have you heard any other options, Warren, out there? Have you heard of people interested in joining, and are you interested?
I have no interest, thank you. I think you have other problems that you're not aware of by not having a person. You're doing budget work and you need to have a certain number of people
To approve.
for a quorum. And you currently don't have it.
Adam, your thoughts?
I mean, I can think of people that could be pursued, like Orca. But
I wouldn't wanna talk someone into it, I'd like to see him just come forward and say, I'd love to do that.
yeah, I mean,
Sean's been coming forward. He came to our last meeting. I mean, I'm just saying there is interest. It's not like, I think the pursuing of him was probably, you know, only just to tell him to, you know, what, so.
I think whoever we get, unless it's Warren, is gonna be underqualified and unable to keep up with the time commitment. So sure, give anybody a shot. But I think, you know, I think it'd be great for Warren to help us out. But
No way, you've asked him, how many times have we asked you?
You don't want,
I want you,
you don't.
I do.
A, I am not doing it. Thank you very much for the invitation.
So, sure, let's get somebody unqualified who won't be able to keep up with the time commitment.
Make a motion.
I'm not gonna make that motion, but
Great.
Make, that was the motion, to accept his letter of intent.
To appoint him to the board.
If we have, go ahead, Dennis.
I would like to do that, but I'd like to talk to him, I'd like to talk to him,
So then we put it on for the 24th,
if we could.
make sure we have a quorum.
Or put it on the work session?
No, sorry, 28th, when's our next, when's our halfway meeting, huh? 28th. If we decide that we don't want to have him, then we're gonna be going into special election.
I mean, I tried reaching out to him once before, and he never got that, but I would just like to be able to talk to him.
Sure. Okay. We could also postpone it, till later today and see if he shows up.
I think,
let's wait and see if anybody else does step up.
He called me tonight, I mean, it doesn't have to be in the meeting.
But we could make the motion at the next meeting, whether it's him or someone else.
Okay. All right.
it's been in the paper, is that how we've been advertising it?
No, I didn't advertise it.
If there was a way we could get it out there more,
Post it on just our boards.
post it on the
Yeah.
boards, can we?
Put it on
Post it
Facebook.
online, I would like to see it on, yeah, I'd like to see it on Facebook. And, you know, if by the 28th, maybe we get with the, maybe like, please send in your letter of intent if you would like to join the board, and if we get more letters, then we can
Great.
look through them on the 28th and
Great.
try to make that the decision.
Okay.
Let's make sure that we're within the deadline period.
The 28th is still in the deadline period, but this next meeting is now.
It's gonna be the second meeting. And then also a deadline, of course, for, when we have to receive a letter of intent by. And you know, part of the criteria for serving as a board member, you have had to be a resident for a year. So let's make sure people know that. They don't have to be a property owner, they have to be a resident for a year.
Proof of residence.
And then we can see, you know, what sort of field of candidates we have to choose from.
Talk to Carl.
Sure. He, specifically said that he's leaving now a lot. I've asked him before, actually. Next, we have, decision on hiring Allison McClure as a part-time manager, so it would be actually not part-time, but just as the program manager for the Bridge Grant 2022. It was highly recommended by Julie, Julie is in between FEMA, Colorado Department of Homeland Security. She's the one that kind of is in contact with the administrator, and she highly recommended that the administrator and manager be the same person. Yeah, there was some issues. Melody, put in a lot of hours, but she's now asking that we don't pay her anymore. Like, she's asking that we, just donate those hours as volunteer, which we're probably not gonna do, but basically that, she has to deal with some personal issues, so she really just wants the grant to be, back at a healthy position and so she's donating the hours, but she's not actually, it's not gonna be part of the grant.
So, I think Allison McClure is extremely qualified for this position. And I would like to make a motion to hire Allison McClure as the part-time program manager for the BRIC 2022 grant.
Second,
More discussion?
yeah. So as we're working on the budget, the line item for out-of-pocket expense for the BRIC grant is $1,924 a year. And I don't think that accounts for the, I'm assuming these people who, Allison in particular, has received some money for the work
Not
she's
yet.
done.
No, she's just declaring it, the cutoffs today, actually.
Okay, so then will we pay her?
Yeah, so what it is we pay out and then we get reimbursed right away.
And none of that,
10% of it is held back
awesome, so none of that is
in the budget,
in the budget,
right?
and it needs to be.
Right.
So we need some support. in
Right,
that.
and she's willing to do that. I don't know if she's gonna declare anything this,
Right.
but. Yes, I agree. So is there any other discussion on Allison McClure, my manager? All in favor? All right, old business, we're carrying over, the attorney contract,
Oh, wait. Can't we do the living wisdom?
we can't right now.
But they're all here.
Well, first, we're gonna have an executive
Oh,
session with our attorney as attorney-client privilege, and then we're going to discuss the living wisdom after lunch, so.
so we
If you guys wanna come back after lunch, we're not at the point where we're gonna be, talking about living wisdom. Unless you guys wanna, talk about it and give us information, and then we will, carry that over into our decision at the end of our attorney's report.
do they know we have an executive session? We should let them know.
Can you guys hear us online? Rick? Kirsten?
Aye, yes, we can.
We can hear you.
Okay. We could move into having them give us.
I just don't know if they're aware, if you guys are aware that we have a executive session scheduled to talk with our attorney about this situation. So that's why we're not ready to just engage in a conversation right this second. But it sounds like Benji is proposing that if you have anything to share with us that we can take to our executive session, which will be at 1:30. Does that make sense?
So, hi, everybody, Kirsten here. Does that mean, hi there, Benji, all of you. Does that mean after the executive session, you would put us on?
Yeah, we can't make any decisions during our executive session, but we do want,
Right.
attorney-client privilege.
Right.
Before we make any decisions.
So, do you have any idea, would that be like starting at 2 o'clock roughly?
My guess is if you guys came back, it could be longer because we actually have to do two in a row. One is not regarding your living wisdom at all, but the second, but we have to do two, so it's probably gonna be more like 3 o'clock is my guess.
Okay,
Is that, but you
Okay,
guys
that's
can
what-
give us,
we were expecting this afternoon.
you were expecting that? Okay, so is there anything that you want us to hear from you prior to that, or do you want to just wait until then?
We want to wait.
Okay, great. We will, hold that until 3 o'clock, I'd say, somewhere around 3.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much, Kirsten. Thank you.
Thanks,
Rick.
all of
Thank
you.
you, everyone.
Yeah.
Denise.
Bye.
Next, we have, attorney contract. I think this came up because of the increase in the amount of work that our attorney's been doing for the town. And whether we're paying him the extra, for the extra time, or he's just sucking it up and just kind of giving it to us. I put it on the agenda because I felt like, we have to, recognize the amount of work that he's actually doing for us. Seemed like in the beginning, when the attorney started, we had a retainer. And we paid him a pretty good amount for that retainer, and then maybe because he was just starting, he wasn't putting as much time as it seems like he's putting in now, so it's almost like there's a little bit of a time lag or makeup for that, and I think we're hitting a point now where he's doing more work for us than he's getting paid for. So the budget is saying
So,
no 36.
That's for 25.
2 people. Forensic auditor, 25, and I'm looking for 25, because this is gonna be carried over to 25. Or starting at 25, 14,000 for the attorney.
That's the auditor,
Okay, so
36.
36 is for multiple lawyers, not just.
It's for,
Right.
right.
that's right.
that including like water lawyer, like if we ever need a
Like a
water.
water lawyer, like if we needed a new lawyer to deal with the lawsuit with living wisdom, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it started looking like the Seth Walker line item. And we changed it to describe as legal fees,
Right.
regardless if it was Seth or someone else.
So 36 is, 6,000 divided by 12,
Well, that's what they're saying is that
3,000.
it's not.
No, I understand that, but it only leaves $3,000 per month for attorneys. And we are paying him 2,500.
And his last bill was 37.50. And, you know, that was when we were at the doctor, Benji, and we all talked about how Seth was doing a lot of work. We've got him capped at 10 hours, and how if he was gonna go over that, we wanted to request that he let us know what the work was, and we could try to be a little more proactive about prioritizing it. But that was kind of like, you know, we paid him, and
We paid him that.
yeah, we can.
I know that he is giving us a detailed report on what he's doing. I haven't seen it though, so I'm not 100% unless I can't find that.
I've been including it in your trustee binder.
On your,
I think it's attorney-client privilege.
oh.
It's not.
Or a separate folder.
Yeah, here So he is doing it in minutes, like when I dealt with him about this IGA map, it was 24 minutes. We've got approximately 13.5 hours. This value does not include multiple phone calls and or emails with the clerk, mayor of short nature. Why? So when we paid him the 3,700, how would that, if it was 25 and then if there was only like two, how did that come out to 3,700? Anybody know?
35 hours?
$3,700.
Well, I think it's $250 an hour,
Oh,
so that's 15 hours.
maybe he took those extra hours on top. You get that? Oh, thank you. 750, 15 hours at 250 an hour. How do you guys want to handle this? What do you guys think? Because I mean, no matter what, we're gonna be paying more. If we're doing this kind of thing where
At the dollar amount that we have proposed in the 25 budget of 36,000. If you subtract out his current rate or contract, what does that leave?
7,000.
7,000. So my personal feelings have been, I think sometimes, just like with the clerk, we throw too many things at him. I remember the times even with Scott, if a question came up, just throw it at him. So at some point, it either didn't get done, or in this case, it's just gonna get more expensive. Things a little bit more discipline on our part as well. Did he give any indication that he was gonna stick with that dollar amount?
he hasn't said anything to me about, he told me that something was gonna come up where, his office is changing, and that he's gonna even have less time to be working on stuff for us. So, I mean, he could work, unless we change something, where we actually lock him into a certain amount of time, which right now is just 10 hours, but he's just gonna be taking out a lot more, I guess, is what I'm hearing. He wasn't very specific about it. I guess if we're wanting to ask him at, today's meeting,
I think we could talk a little bit more with him about it, but also, once, things are settled with the Living Wisdom, project and the sewer project, there aren't any, what I would call, I guess, big issues. Unless something's hiding around the corner I'm not aware of. That we would,
so should we just leave it at the 10 hours?
I guess that's one reason, yes.
I think so.
And then just if there's overtime and we just, yeah.
I would say if we got to a point where he needed 12 hours, but stopped at 10 and it actually affected us, then the following month, we might be more responsible.
I've got another question. Did I hear correctly that he was also, working with the county on our agreement with them?
The 3 mile thing?
Yeah, but that's not a big deal.
Not the 3 mile deal. I thought it had to do with the county agreement for the formula that they use on what they charge us for what would be maintenance on the stuff that we do, like snow removal, for example. Because if that's the case, I don't think we need to let him do that anymore. When I talked with the county representative along with Brent, last week, I think it was, or maybe the week before, there's something like 13 years left to that agreement.
Yeah. Here it does say Swash County Road and Bridge emails to clerk and trustee 50 minutes.
So I would just
Brad-
direct him right off of that.
Okay, so what I would say is when he goes through his agenda and he brings that up, then we just tell him to leave that one.
Right.
I mean, I'm hoping we can just get to an end on some of this stuff, you know, doesn't mean nothing's gonna come up, but even writing, you know, the noise ordinance and stuff like that is something that after we're done with this, that he could work on
And codify the code,
codifying,
which I think he said he would do, Mr. Parrish.
right?
I think too, first we need to be careful how much we're asking him to do.
Yeah.
Of course, but I also feel as issues come up that require more time with him, then we should be prepared to pay for more time, and we shouldn't be asking him to give free time on things. I think a lot of the burden then falls on us that we're frugal with what we ask of him. And even when we have these executive meetings where we're meeting with him, that we really stay on point and, be frugal with our time. But I don't think we should ask him to work for free. And we just need to be real conscious of what we're asking him for, because I think there are times when we really need to have our attorney's opinion. And, we don't want to be penny wise and pound foolish and pass on legal advice when we really need the legal advice.
And after saying that, we don't need to have him working on an agreement that still has 13 years to go on it.
Okay. So let's just, when the attorney comes, we'll ask him if he wants to just continue with the 10 hours into next year and we can't increase it right now.
Right.
Okay. Next, we have survey cemetery, so we got that completed. We have the big maps that are available for us to look at. They're in Ariel has them now on file. There's the LiDAR maps, but they don't do much you can't do much unless you have the whole file and you can zoom in on the CAD file. So our engineer said that he would take a look and come up with an idea whether we need to go out for bid or whether he can do it in under a $5,000 range for us. Is that? Cause so basically he's gonna assess the files and see what needs to be done and see if they can just do it under like town engineer work. So he's creating a file shared thing for me. He's supposed to be talking to his IT people and for some reason the link didn't work that he sent me, so I'm waiting for that, and then we're gonna send over the CAD files and see where to go from there. Once we get a little more information on that, eventually we're gonna wanna have the public involved and kind of get their approval on how we're gonna expand. Not approval, but input.
And I would like to see some clarity. In the while back, we went through the whole process of choosing a town engineer. And that allowed us to use the town engineer without having things go out to bid. And I would like to have sure we have the clarity for what kind of projects and what kind of money are we looking for things that need to go out to bid. And that $5,000 limit might not apply when we have somebody we have hired as our town engineer. They work on all kinds of different projects for us. But at what point then we say, okay, this is the scale of this project, that's in the project, this is something that has to go out to bid. So that we have that clarity,
Yeah.
because it's not a $5,000 figure, when we went through.
When
the
it's a
whole
professional
project, so we had a
service.
town engineer. You know, we use that town engineer within a certain scale. And I feel like, as a current board, there needs to be more clarity on where that line is.
I agree.
You know. Cause it was a big process that we went through for getting bids and everything to be the town engineer. We looked at a lot of different engineering companies, we interviewed them, went through all of this. And we made our choice.
Well, it's kind of interesting that even the group that is our town engineer, and I would say that it's a big firm. They've been applying for the bids that we've been receiving, so on some level, you know, if we go off the bid, they're still the ones that are coming through with those, you know, bids. It's just, there might be a fine line in there that we can just say this project is something that can be done, you know, under the town engineer's purview as professional services. Maybe we could direct our clerk to just do a quick research into that and where the line is and what we can use them for and how much, if there's a. I know our bidding policy says $5,000 is a limit to or contracting, but then there's this loophole in there about professional services and what is that?
Doesn't our municipal code set a limit to $10,000 for the town engineer
No.
of work for the year?
It's where I think a little research on, what the agreement we made a few years ago when we went through the whole process of choosing a town engineer. And a part of that is that we kind of went through that bidding process. And to stop them from having to put out the bid every single time we have a project that's gonna be more than 5,000, we have a town engineer. And that's what I'm saying, but when we have a large project, then that probably goes beyond the scope of what we have as our town engineer. And I think that's where we just need to have that clarity on of what exactly the duties of the town engineer are and what's the scope of, the amount of money we're talking about.
To me, it's similar to having an attorney. The town engineer gives us advice on problems that, or the community might identify as being a problem in town. That changes very clearly when you go from identifying that problem to coming up with a solution to fix or repair it, meaning design, construction, everything from dealing with a contractor, series of contractors from bid process through, that bidding process, construction management, payouts, and so on and so forth. If our attorney is giving us advice here, it's a lot different than if he were actually in court. So I think that's the line, at least that I see, with what we're describing. So it's not necessarily the size of the project. It would be the actual construction of the project itself. Obviously, a difference between the rehab of this building and the sanitary sewer plan that's over here. One is much bigger than the other, but same, requiring the engineer expertise.
So what are we looking at with the cemetery survey?
Cemetery survey is gonna require an engineer to, and this was known way before we even got the survey, but cemetery engineer will take the results and turn it into an actual plan for expansion. So there might be some drainage issues that come up.
So, but we've gotten the survey and we paid for it. So now what we need is an assessment of that survey.
Correct.
Before there's a plan.
Right.
So like you had said before, whatever engineer we pay to assess that survey isn't gonna provide us a plan. They're gonna tell us kind of where we can work Right.
Yeah, or give us an overview on whether it's gonna require, more engineering, or it's gonna require a bigger plan, like earth moving type plan or culverts, or, things like that, so I don't think it's gonna be more than $5,000.
But we also don't want them to design a
So
cemetery.
they're gonna give us options.
Okay.
Basically based on this survey. So a long time ago, when Kyle was in charge of coming up with a report, we're kind of going back to that, which was get the LiDAR survey, get the drainage report based on the LiDAR survey, and then, have a committee set up that assesses all the results, brings all the information to the table. It's not like there's any decisions to be made.
So are you proposing that we commit to paying our town engineer for the next step right now?
No, I'm proposing, I'm just giving you an update and telling you that I'm going to transfer those files over to our town engineer. And then he's going to get back to us with he's gonna look at it and see or pass it on to one of the other engineers that are more involved with that, and see whether we have, how much of a project, what the scope is of this project.
Okay. Right.
That's all it is. It's not a big deal. It's just, but if you also wanted to look at the CAD or the bigger, printouts of this particular survey, we have them as well. So please look at them. They're pretty cool.
And if I could say one more thing about the attorney contracts in regards to us being more responsible with how we utilize his time. So today we have 2 executive sessions. I think we need to be really responsible with how we use this time today. So we're not doing a 2-hour mediation. We're really getting some advice and coming out.
One option would be to do one of the executive sessions on our own,
Yeah, totally.
so. But we would have to do that after, like later on in the day.
So along those lines, to Rick and Kirsten and Denise, if we can be in touch with y'all, or we could just schedule them 3 regardless of how long
Yeah,
the executive session takes. All right, it makes it easier.
does that make sense, guys? We're just gonna keep it at 3 o'clock, even though we might do one of the executive sessions after that.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yes,
Yeah, we're just, we're trying to be efficient with our attorney's time.
yeah. Okay, I guess I'm just wondering, I don't know if I heard you, I haven't been listening closely. The executive session, if one of them regards us, it should be, of course, before before we.
Correct.
Okay,
But we wanna just give enough time for the attorney, for that executive session. And so we'll just stick with 3 o'clock. We'll deal with, old business A, which is living wisdom stop order response.
okay,
Okay, and then, now we're gonna move on to, the black mold report that we got from 116 South Alder Street. I guess it was an indoor quality assessment of the building. Are you gonna report on that? Or is that?
Looks pretty simple.
They did a report and I reviewed it, there was no black mold located there.
Interesting, yes.
This is going back to your previous about the cemetery, you have no money for your engineer. You need in your 24 budget, in your 25 budget, you've got $6,000 for all other professional services.
I was under the understanding we spent 5,500 of 10, so we have 4,500 left in the 2024 budget.
Well, that's only for the budget I was just looking at, unless I didn't look in the right place.
I mean, we also put 20,000 into cemetery expansion and drainage.
But that's the subject for 25.
24 is 10. Repairs and maintenance.
What line is that?
It's it's in the old budget,
Yeah,
2024.
does that one have the numbers?
No, cemetery repairs and maintenance and other. 10,000.
So I think you're saying it comes out of cemetery and you're saying it comes out of engineering. But if we take it out of cemetery instead,
Look, I'm not trying to be pissy about it, I'm just saying. There doesn't appear to be the money for the engineer, the way it's spelled out. It's not under professional services, repairs and maintenance, it doesn't sound like engineering. That's all.
I'm putting it under cemetery, as cemetery being. What, I know it's broad. It's broad description, and a lot of these are in broad descriptions, unfortunately, we have. You know,
I'm just bringing it to your attention, maybe I'm wrong.
All right,
okay, let's move on to the black mold report saying that there was. So what does that mean, that we just,
who paid for that?
they did.
Right on. Means, I mean, I think that goes back to what Dennis is saying too, like if we involve ourselves, are we then liable on private property, but also great. I think they got a report and there's nothing to be worried about.
And I mean, the last time this came up, I think we came to some conclusion that we can really only get involved if like the building were to be condemned. That's when we would like then be able to be like, hey, you got this condemned building here, you gotta do something about it. But until then, it's like. We don't really have.
so maybe we just send a thank you note for doing their own research, because that's what we sent a letter basically saying for them to be aware that we were getting complaints about black mold in the building, and so now we should just send a response saying thank you. Does everybody agree with that? You guys agree, just send a response saying thank you for that, and, you know, hopefully.
I mean, as a bigger problem though, it does, like, businesses are moving out of that space because it's leaking. I'm not saying there's anything we can do about that, but like, it's kind of a bummer.
Are businesses moving out?
The thrift store left,
Which
and
one?
the, whatever the consignment shop lady,
Christmas consignment.
but yeah.
Well, I
Did she
mean-
leave because it was,
Well, because there's no black mold in there now, doesn't mean that if the condition worsens, that it's not gonna happen. So there still needs to be some maintenance done to the building.
It's a private building.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
think we have anything to say about that.
no, it's just.
Well,
All I'm saying is that we sent a message saying that we got some complaints, and that now we're gonna send a message back saying, thank you for taking care of it. That's, you know, for at least doing a test on it, but it's kind of up to them to work out their issues. I mean,
yeah.
It is.
so we could say something like, we hope that you, you know, can somehow reconcile it with your tenants or something like that. I don't know, something that, because it was really the tenants that complained.
Yeah.
Next, we good? Next, we got,
So basically, we're looking at this report, is they're not seeing anything that's a problem.
Right.
we're just gonna reply to them sending that report back to us. You could say thank you for us being aware of that, of your results. We are on to employee requests for decision regarding health stipends.
I put this on the agenda because I've been approached by at least 2 employees to revisit this, as there hasn't been a decision made.
So the question here is, how do we want to compensate people for that? Because we discussed that when we were gonna remove their health benefits, that we were going to have a health stipend. I think it's in our budget.
So we set aside $14,000 for benefits, out of which we pay dental, so whatever's left over is probably $11,000 or $12,000 a year. And when we were doing the personnel handbook committee, we were looking at some sort of scale, so if somebody works 5 hours or less, or 10 hours or less, they're not receiving any health stipend. 10 to 20 hours would receive X amount of dollars, 20 to 30, so on and so on. And I think that's fine, I think we could be like, anybody who's less than 20 hours is not getting a health stipend, 20 to 30 hours is X amount of dollars per month towards a health stipend, and 30 to 40 is X amount, and over 40 is whatever, nothing. Nothing additional.
So how do we account for different hiring times and all that? For instance, like, you know, each one was hired at different times
We could say after 60 days,
of their, but still we have to account for when they started. So in other words, if you guys started a little earlier than Brent,
are you talking about like for back pay or something?
yeah, it's back pay. It's a reimbursement, like,
Well, yeah, it would be for when they were here.
so we just have to figure out how to
When
fairly
everybody started.
distribute the balance of the money.
So we need a list of staff members, the date that they started, and how many hours a week they've worked since they each,
Their time sheets.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so
Or their
like
total hours.
if Kim started at 5 hours a week,
Mhm.
then she was getting no house stipend, and then she went to 20 something. So that's a lot of data to weed through.
So you're looking at a monthly average.
Okay.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
somebody worked in a month, divided by 4.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That would be fine.
That's cool.
Is it going to be a set amount for everyone? Or is it gonna be a portion of their salary, a percentage of their salary,
A set amount,
pardon,
a set amount,
a set amount? And,
based on how many hours they work.
Yeah.
how many hours they were hired to work, or how many hours they actually worked?
Mhm. Well, that should be one and the same. So how many hours they actually work.
I think we need the data, and then like maybe even in the finance committee, we need to look at that data and figure out what that stipend
Right.
scale is.
Yeah. Cause it all has to fit into whatever we.
So it's 14,500.
Minus dental.
14,500 minus the dental.
We should probably get a finance committee.
So we also need that information. How much did we pay in dental?
This stuff in the budget.
And that's information that at this point in time, either treasurer or individual employees are providing us.
And if it could be easier if we say, okay, if they're hired to work, 10 hours a week, that's 10, 20, 30, 40 hours a month. Okay, that comes out to, and it might fluctuate where they work 8 hours one week, 12 hours the next week. We're looking at, so many hours a month. And if you're in that range of wage, here is the straight flat amount. We don't wanna be adjusting it every single month.
Yeah,
If you're within
Yeah.
this category, then you get $100.
right.
Yeah.
So who do we? I mean, I think the treasurer probably has the most direct access to this type of information. Like, or is it you?
That's because I have all the access to the dental,
Okay,
and, I have access to when people were hired and how many weeks they were hired for,
okay.
the other minutes. And I mean, I could get the other information too about the hours worked.
Do you think that
all our
the-
timesheets are saved in one place?
Do you think that this is something that you would be willing to work on as far as just trying to come up with like a fair?
Or Patty.
So like, when we do tips over there, we add up everybody's hours and we just divide the tips into hours and then we multiply that by each person, you know what I mean? So that's like the basic, but we do that on a daily scale, not a monthly scale. So it's kind of like a monthly overall view for how many months, and then we just kind of divide that money up accordingly. Right?
But the easiest way I think for us to read it would be Brent Vandiver started this date.
We
Has
have
had this much dental coverage. And works this many hours a week.
average.
Sure. Or
A
month.
So. And then once. whenever you can compile that REL as it works with your schedule, then we can get a finance committee meeting together and crunch those numbers and then come up with a stipend scale.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And we'll try to, I mean, we'll
We should
try to
definitely
get
have
that
it.
done in the next couple of weeks or, maybe,
By the end of the year,
By-
and it's back pay, so
yeah.
If you guys meet one time between now and the next meeting. You have one meeting, you probably get that.
Well, I mean, also Ariel's gonna get the information together and she's already got a lot, so like, as it works with her schedule too.
Alright. Let's move on. That's a good start on that. Request proposal for what, so now we're on to like, you have 5 minutes, so let's just, get as far as we can, the wastewater engineer, those proposals that we received.
Yeah, and I think, first off, before we go to the proposals, which I think, I know we're gonna throw them out and redo this. The board has to make a decision on what we're gonna do with this plan. It's definitely not going to fit into this budget or any future budgets. And if I remember correctly, this is what really Randy was asking for. Which one of these or how many of these are, we think we're gonna do? My personal opinion is just taking what's identified here as 2, the line number 2. That simply goes from the store at the end of, like where the cloud, or not, the hardware store and the grocery store. And it'll probably make it up to Hemlock with the money that we have left. And the only reason why I'm picking that, let me rephrase that. The reason why I'm picking that is because it trails in front of what is currently zoned but empty commercial lots. And my hope is that that would maybe somehow entice someone or make it ready for someone who might do some commercial development other than what we already have in town.
Is this the one on Silver that you're talking about?
No, Galena, number 2.
Okay.
When I don't know when this photograph was taken, I don't know when this stuff was all designed on here, but I tried counting the lots that had buildings on them. And it doesn't meet the minimum requirement. I don't know if any new homes were built since this was done, but I think they require 20 homes to tap on, and there's none there.
Okay,
So the other thing about Galena that's kind of nice is that they could take it up as far as they can go for the money. So like you can just say, this is as far as we're gonna go, and that's it, and that's what we do. So if it doesn't even make it to Hemlock, then that's fine. I mean, it's not fine, but it's.
it also means anybody who's within 400 feet is then required to tap in
I don't know.
That's
for
the,
future development.
yeah, you have to be at least 400 feet away from the sewer line.
Okay,
For a
I'm,
well.
yeah, I understand. I don't recall, I have it somewhere, what, the per foot cost of the Living Wisdom Project sanitary sewer extension is. And it's less in feet here, but it was a big hunk of money.
Up there,
But
The engineers quoted $900 a foot originally in the baseline, engineering study. And how much was?
that'll be a block and a half,
so 600 feet would be at
that'd
900
be
is,
$720,000.
yeah. So it might not even make it then. One.
So I like going up Galena as option A, as option B. I like, engineering and installing our own pretreatment facility before it gets to water and sand. And as option 3, I like taking all $480,000 that we have and investing it into improving water and sand infrastructure.
And so those are your top
just don't know
3
if we-
options for what to do with the grant money.
Otherwise, if we do nothing, once again, then we're liable for the 120 that we've already spent.
Right.
So we need to do something.
Right.
I think,
What do you think, Dennis, out of those 3
I
options?
think if we were ever to consider a short or long range plan, I would stick with number 2 with the ender there are, and I know you go to some of these things. There are, places where we can, as a quasi economic development committee or commission, be it us or someone appointed, can go to places where these small businesses advertise and at times are sometimes enticed, I don't know if that's the right word, into communities like ours to develop their business and their products.
The other nice thing about that is there's a lot of separate individual lots going up the hill that theoretically could have individual businesses on each one. Up Galena, there's broken into, I think, 25 foot lots, you might need 50 to build, but
Well, that's the simplest option. To just go, I mean,
What did Randy have to say about meeting the requirements for the grant for the 20 units?
She didn't, I had voiced it to her and either I didn't do it well enough or she was something on, but I told her pretty much what I just told the board here today and there was no reaction.
I think it's pissed away money.
well,
You're not getting any customers.
not yet, but we might. I mean, if it's there over 10 years, you might get customers, I mean.
I don't think it's this way.
Well, the other thing is, even if it's dry pipe going up the hill for now, it's not gonna be a problem because there's nothing above it yet. That,
What do you think? What do you think we should use it for?
If you can give it to the Baca, okay, it's the only solution I see that makes any sense, and I don't think you can do it unless Randy says you can, because it's a federal grant, and you said you were gonna get 20 people hooked up to it. That was one of the deliverables. If you're not delivering that, then it's fraud, okay?
Well,
That should be looked.
fraud is a very specific word, Warren. So changing the plan is not necessarily fraud and working with what we have to work with based on previous mistakes. And Randy did say she thought we could possibly give it to Water and Sand.
Okay.
What, a question and a comment. We talk about budget and we talk about the expense and in trying to control the expense, but we never, ever talk about a proactive measure to try to attract business into our town. I've not heard it since I've lived here. I've not heard it since I've been on the board. I've not, and I think this is an opportunity to do that.
I think you're right. And I think running it up Galena is the simplest and most forward-looking. Well, I think it's the simplest option and that it does have some forward-looking elements to it.
Yeah, I do, the pre-treatment definitely satisfies some different types of needs we have for our water and sanitation, but I agree with what you're saying. This expands opportunity and,
there might be 20 taps on Galena that we would eventually get. It doesn't mean that we're gonna get it right away. There's no way, even with the plan that we had, that we were gonna get 20 taps. So they approved that without even having 20 taps. I mean, I remember specifically that for some reason with Crestone specifically, they were not worried about how many taps we got. I don't know why that was the case, but I clearly remember her saying this grant normally is set for 20 taps, but for some reason Crestone didn't have to come up with that number, and I don't.
That's 6,000 feet of pipe.
Originally, yeah, and there's no way we're even gonna get close to that right now.
Well, it was a huge project.
Kissen's got her hand up.
So when we had gone over these options before, we were facilitating. As Adam said, going up Galena is kind of forward looking, but I also wonder, how long before anybody actually plugs into that system. I'm not opposed to it, I'm just looking at options. When we had settled on looking at going instead of the sewer down to Iron Street and dealing with residences that had aging septic systems, I think a key factor that needs to be considered is an actual interview with everybody who has those septic systems on how they would feel about having the sewer line run. Because when the area along Iron Street, which was out of option 1, 2, 3, it was the option that we settled on, and the reason is because the probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 houses along that stretch. All of them have septic systems that are probably 20 years old. And I remember Gwen at the time saying that they were having some issues with theirs, they'd really like to be able to hook up the sewer. Okay, that's just one out of maybe 6 people.
There's just,
And so,
there's just no way that with the amount, every time we do the assessment, it's getting shorter and shorter on how much we're gonna be able to do.
how many?
It would only make it to that little lot that you have.
Right, so now we're looking at less money and a lot less distance of what we have. And so, you know, if we only have a certain amount of money and we can't do that, okay, but I'm saying that that should still be kept on the wish list. That should still be kept as a priority when we have more money, just because of its potential for polluting the groundwater and North Crestone Creek. So that's something we should not forget about. But
if
now that we have a lot less money, the idea of using it to run to Galena, I'm fine with that. I think if we say it's forward looking, that sort of development. I also like the idea of looking at a pre-treatment area, and the town does have road right away that's along Lime Street, that's behind the home business, it's not a resident house that you're impacting by having such a facility. It's a piece of land, road right away, we have that runs with the sewer, runs right past it. And if we're looking at bang for our buck through towards the future, treatment might be something that could save us money in the long run when we're dealing with water and sand. So it could eventually start paying for it itself. So I think that's also a good option to look at for the future as the town grows, especially seeing the sort of BOD levels that we persistently have, we need to consider. The other thing I think the town really does need to think about is, and maybe this is off subject, but the commercial lots that we have going up the hill predate, like God, probably 1940s or 50s or something, when Galena Street, which is 80 feet wide, historically is wider than everything else because that street went up to the town of Teton, and the development of the town was looking at historically that the railroad on one end of Galena and Teton on the upper end of Galena made that 80 feet wide to be like the main commercial district. Now we're looking at that old zoning that has the commercial district moving up into what is essentially a residential neighborhood. And so you're bringing commercial impact into a residential neighborhood. And it's something that, you know, we don't wanna be takings of private property, but part of our long-term planning is where are the best locations for commercial development? What makes sense now, today's world, not 50, 60 years ago?
Well, I understand that, but when people have, over the past 50, 60 years, have been buying land around that, they've been able to refer to the map that's already created with the zoning being that, so they know that that is commercial and could be developed as commercial. And I think people have paid more of a premium for that land because it's commercial, but to try to take that away might be to try to switch it back to residential, you know, I don't think.
Right, and so
I don't think
I'm not saying that's, you know, that's even something that, like you say, a person invested with that being in mind. But I think how it's developed is something that we have to pay attention to.
I agree.
And if that looks like where we could spend our money for sewage, that would be effective. Yes, but I don't wanna see us spend it just to spend it, because we have to. make sure that you're gonna have a long range. What's our best benefit when we're looking long term? Is it to extend the sewer line or is it to look at a pre-treatment facility? Both.
Well, I don't know if we can use the grant necessarily for pre-treatment. Do we ever talk to Randy about that?
Pre-treatment is extremely expensive.
Yeah.
480,000,
Pardon me?
480,000.
I don't think you could build a system,
So then,
a pre-treatment facility and man it.
then if that's just gonna be way too expensive, then, you know, that's one of the options.
And we don't,
This is really good, but
we don't have anything.
that's all it is. I mean,
Pre-treatment is for factories and
And if going up Galena Street will allow more either homes or businesses to be developed. As Adam said, forward thinking, I'm in
we
favor.
just have a lot of lots going up on the north side of the street there that could be individual businesses that, you know, if they don't wanna put septic, I mean, it would be not a great area to put septic systems in.
I think the most forward-thinking option is give it to water and sand.
And did we?
In the bottom.
Did we ever get that? Did we ever get that?
We
No
didn't,
approval?
we didn't get a no.
I just don't.
That's not a
remember.
yes.
To give it to water and sand as part of their future treatment expansion.
I would say it's part, I think it needs to be as part of their immediate, repairs, maintenance, expansion, improvements. So they would have to spend it now, and I'm sure they could. And I
And
think
would
that,
that count towards our share of expanding their facility?
It would
Oh, I think
have to.
that's a brilliant idea. I mean, I really do, I think it's a brilliant idea rather for us than spend the money because we have to on something we don't have necessarily an immediate need on.
So do you,
But will go towards our own share of their expansion.
in our next 20-year relationship.
no, it's gonna be yes or no from range.
Yeah. And I think if it's a no, then the next best option is the Galena expansion. But yeah, I mean, it gets, you know, it gets two birds stoned to get ruled.
Can we
No,
go?
I think
Yeah.
that
so,
makes sense.
that was good. If you want, we can come back to this. I think we should put it on the agenda for the next meeting. I'll talk to Randy.
Okay.
And get I'm gonna ask if we can transfer the leftover remaining funds to the water and sanitation district. And then it'll save us a lot of headache, that's for damn sure.
Make the budget easier.
Huh? Yeah. So we're gonna adjourn until 1:30, and we will have our attorney's report, and then we will have to finish everything else as we go forward past the attorney's report. So, and then 3 o'clock, we're gonna meet with Living Wisdom, so you ready? Thank you. Hi, Seth. 1:33, and we are back in session. Next, we are going to go straight into our attorney's report, and start with your agenda, Seth, and what you're, we are gonna only do one executive session with you, which is the attorney-client privilege. So I don't know if you want to just go straight into that, or if you want to take care of the other stuff first and then go into the attorney's or the executive session after that.
Mayor, if you don't mind, I may have a few things to add about our minutes in this agenda. And then if possible, we could do the attorney's report and then those executive sessions.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. So we're on the record.
We're on the
Recording
record.
started.
Correct.
Okay. Mayor, I would ask that we edit the current agenda to include even a sentence, just some additional information related to the 2 executive sessions. And that would be for identification purposes of the subject matter for those executive sessions. if you would like to propose one, A or B, I could try to give an example of what I would be looking for.
Let's start with B and then we can move to A.
And is B, if you read that, the any person receiving the agenda wouldn't have any idea what that subject matter is. So could you give me one or two sentences about what will be discussed in that
Yeah,
session?
attorney-client privilege in order to discuss negotiations with Living Wisdom Village and whether and how we're going to move forward with that.
Stop work order.
So,
Okay. And then can we do the same for new business A?
yes.
With that personnel matter, could we go into a little more detail on that?
A will be discussion of personnel matters pursuant to 246402 regarding employee evaluation, having the employee ask to be in closed session for those that evaluation on email correspondence.
Thank you. And then I would ask if the minutes were approved previously this morning.
Minutes were approved. Would you like to reopen them?
Yes, I have two comments. Section 13
Okay, one
deals
second.
with the
On which, we had 2 minutes, we had the 9 and 9:23.
I believe it was the 9-9, the
Okay.
first session.
Is this the bankruptcy thing, Seth?
Yes.
Yeah, that, we already adjusted that.
Okay. And then also in section 13C and D, those were executive sessions also. I would ask that the minutes reflect the same as I requested for these agenda minutes, a sentence related to the specific subject matter that was discussed in those executive sessions.
Okay. Do you want us to do that now?
If we could just update those minutes and then possibly reapprove those minutes.
Amend the minutes from September 9th.
And this amendment is in open session with our attorney or something like that, because it was his request to reopen them. So we can amend them on. So we should make a note that it was the attorney, the reason why we're reopening these minutes.
All right. As per the attorney's advice.
Yes, there you go.
I second.
More discussion? All in favor?
We could just put the actual amendment to those executive session titles on the record, and then that would be reflected in our minutes also.
Okay. So do you have that, Ariel?
Just
Basically the same.
C and D to.
Basically the same exact.
Yeah, do you want me to do it now?
As long as you have it in your notes and you'll update it that way.
Absolutely.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. She's gonna.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that housekeeping. I'll jump in with my report. Last week was fairly busy with the town. I submitted a invoice for 15 hours of work. That's due to the fact those go out at the beginning of the month. I actually did have 18 plus hours of work for the month of September, but I at this time am not planning to ask for an addition or a change to that invoice that was submitted. I just would like the board to know that I am putting in time and I am working for the town. I know there was a request to have that itemized invoice, and I will provide that to the town when I have that done. But I did the math this week and it was over 18 hours. So
Wow.
just thank you,
Well,
heads up on that. So
thank you, Seth. We did have a discussion about that, and our budget kind of lays out. We're we're still working on the budget, but we're realizing that we're still coming up kind of short, and so we're trying to just keep it right now with you for the, 10 hours, and then if we have, a real busy month, we can pay you for the overtime if need be, but it's kind of like, until we get this really lined out, right now, we have to stick with those 10 hours. And hopefully
Okay.
that'll.
And this is just my report, so that the mayor and the board are aware of that. I believe we discussed it during our agenda meeting, just trying to bring it up again, so.
Thank you. Thank you for doing the extra work. I know it's a lot, and hopefully we'll be getting through some of the stuff that we've been working on, and it'll slow down a little bit for us. I doubt it, but maybe.
Some things slow down, some get busier. In the attorney's report, my item A, is just one more thing that's an example of getting busier. Natural medicine regulation. The citizens of the state of Colorado had voted affirmatively to now allow natural medicines to be legalized in the state of Colorado. This was through Senate Bill 23-290 that has been signed. And then I may mess up some of these names, but cyclosilibin, ibogaine, there you go. Mescaline and DMT are among a few of the items that will be legalized in the state of Colorado, January 1, 2025. These have some very similar licensing requirements to the marijuana licensing that goes on in the state of Colorado. The Department of Revenue will license and regulate natural medicine businesses, healing centers, cultivations, manufacturers, testing facilities, and their owners and employees. DORA will regulate and license facilitators of natural medicine services. And the DOR will license, sorry, that's a duplicate. The DOR, once again, will license and regulate the natural medicine businesses. Unlike the legislation that legalized marijuana in the state of Colorado, there is no opt-out provision for towns, cities, or counties. So I will be working with the clerk, and also I'd like to reach out to our planning and zoning on a draft resolution. And I do need to get some feedback from the town. What I am currently working on is a resolution that will state or show areas of the town where a licensee could apply for a facility within town. Without regulation by the town, an applicant would not be restricted on any placement of the facility other than it is what in the state license restrictions. The current state license restrictions are distance restrictions only. Those are that a license may not be issued within 1,000 feet of a licensed childcare center, preschool, elementary, middle, junior, or high school, or a residential care facility, or if not permitted by local zoning. It goes on to state that local jurisdictions may vary the distance restrictions, and they in fact may eliminate the facilities from those restrictions. So what the town would be able to do is kind of detail where a facility could be placed, if that's what the town wishes. A lot of towns that I am working with are trying to put that in their business district, trying to keep their residential separated from businesses again. But once again, this is a proposal, just something I'm trying to bring before the board. I do think that P&Z will be contacting them and trying to attend one of their upcoming sessions so that we could have a draft resolution before the town if P&Z approves that. That is just the heads up on natural medicines that I wanted to bring up. My next point is that I do see we have an agenda item with Sean, and then I hope I can get this name right. Manicus? Manakis. Okay, well, I will hope to say that better each time. Has a letter of intent on the agenda. The town did at their September meeting, passed a resolution stating that they would appoint a trustee, and there is a 60-day time limit to do so. So we're approximately halfway through that. I'm just trying to keep that on the board's mind when we get to that business item.
We postponed it so that we had a little time to for our clerk to put up some more some advertisements and see if we can get another couple interested parties, and then we're gonna come back to it on the next halfway meeting on the 28th.
So I would ask you to take some action on the 28th. I do believe our November meeting would possibly put us slightly over that 60-day requirement. And if that individual is appointed, will somebody there be doing the oath?
Our clerk will do the oath.
Great, just following up on that. I saw that in our minutes also. With everything else on the agenda, the natural medicines was really what I wanted to bring up. I have comment on other agenda items, but those are further on our list and on our agenda. So Mayor, that is actually my attorney's report.
Right. So now I think we should go into, I'll make a motion that we go into, executive session. I move we go into executive session, for conference with our town attorney for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions under CRS section 24-6-402-4B. In regards to the Living Wisdom Village stop order and setback issues. Anything else?
The second.
Second, Adam? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And so we are going to shut down this recording, start a new recording. Thank you, Warren.
I'm just gonna ask how long.
Probably 45 minutes.
15.
So Mayor, a new link is going to be sent out.
Yes. We'll send him a quick new link or transfer him or just exit.
Yeah, I'll send it.
Are you gonna get it right away?